Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is, and welcome back. We have news coming out of our ears this morning. We're going to dive into it. We're keeping close tabs on what's happening with these numerous terror attacks percolating all over the country. And we thought just a few hours ago that they were still out there looking for accomplices to what has been happening, because we have these very strange coincidences where we've got two military guys who launched attacks on the same day, a lot of parallels, but now they're saying there are no accomplices out there and that the New Orleans attacker acted alone. Here's what we're seeing over from the cables on the Chyrons. This was just breaking, telling us, as you can see, that he was 100% inspired by ISIS, but as we'll watch here, they're going to tell us that he's acting alone. It's the latest thing that they've just come out with, because there was just a press briefing that was completed as we were sitting down to start the show. So the news is very dynamic today. We're going to see what the most recent press briefing was and go through that because it just wrapped up a few minutes ago. We'll go back through that. We're going to keep our eye on the cables. You see now CNN's reporting that the suspect acted alone, and the New Orleans attacker, they're still saying was terrorism, and they're trying to piece together what ultimately happened. Now, we know that he had an ISIS flag, and so he was ISIS inspired, but he was not working with ISIS, allegedly. So got a bunch of stuff queued up. We're glad that you're here. We're going to be parsing through a bunch of this. There may even be more press briefings that are happening, because today we have also got some questions about what happened in Las Vegas. Okay, a lot of this, what we just heard about, was from New Orleans, but what's happening in Las Vegas. Now, also, there were other interesting things happening. For example, in Houston, we saw this one over on X, where they're reporting that FBI Houston, they said at 7:50 a.m., that was this morning, telling us FBI Houston and the Harris County Sheriff's Office concluded a court-authorized search, and they cleared the area around Crescent Peak Drive. And at this time, no threats to anybody in that area, thinking that they were going to raid the guy who did New Orleans. So FBI is out and about. There was also another FBI post from Denver saying that FBI Denver, the Denver Field ATF, and others are conducting law enforcement activity at a residential address in Colorado. FBI Denver personnel and specialized teams will be on site. It's related to the explosion in Las Vegas on Wednesday. So they went over to Colorado now to deal with that bomber from Las Vegas, who may or may not be a Green Beret, or was a Green Beret. Due to the ongoing nature of the investigation, no further information will be provided. Now, what's happening out there is it feels like we're getting yanked around, or the story's changing. And of course, you always expect the story to change as more information is revealed. But even Fox News was a little credulous about this. You can see this is what they were reporting, as the FBI and the DOJ and all the people are telling us that he acted alone. They're saying, oh no, this is strange, because just like a few hours ago, they were saying the complete different. Here is this excerpt.
See if these two incidents are in any way related, simply because of the shared similarities they have. Both men served in the military, they're veterans. Both men used the rental car app Toro to rent electric trucks to carry out these attacks or these explosions that we saw. But we did just learn short time ago, our colleague David Spun over the Justice Department confirmed that the FBI no longer believes that the suspect here in New Orleans acted with the help of others, that he did this on his own. And that is significant, because that has been a top priority for investigators who have been trying to figure out if there was any kind of ongoing threat to public safety. Now, we'll hopefully hear more about why they now believe that suspect, 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, acted alone, because last night and earlier this morning, both the FBI and the state's attorney general said they had a high level of confidence that others were in fact involved. And the AG said that some of those involved had used an Airbnb here in New Orleans about a mile from the scene to make explosive devices. Now, while...
What? No, he had an Airbnb. We have the address. It's a mile away. They were making bombs there. We have a high level of confidence that there were other people involved. Then we wake up this morning and they're like, ixnay. No, it's all good. We got it.
We wait for those details at this upcoming press conference. We are also learning more about the suspect, who is a U.S. citizen born in Texas. He served 13 years in the U.S. Army and Army Reserves, and he worked for a time at the accounting firm Deloitte. He doesn't have anything of note in his criminal background, no apparent history of violence, but hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media about his support for ISIS and how he wanted to kill people. A man who is married to Jabbar's ex-wife also told the New York Times he had been acting erratically in recent months, so much so that the couple stopped him from spending time with his two daughters. This morning, police are expected to reopen parts of the French Quarter. You can see an aerial shot here of Bourbon Street that is still cleared out. Our Fox flight team has exclusive access to the skies over the scene. One other update we got this past hour, the number of people being treated for injuries from yesterday's attack is now at 37. And that's in addition to the 15 people who lost their lives. Julie?
And I think that number might be back down to 14 now. So the news is very, very dynamic. I had a bunch of stuff queued up from yesterday's press briefings, but then we just got this press briefing. And so this just happened. Let's parse through this together and see what they have for us as this wrapped up minutes ago.
Permanently, no. We have schools really here, so it's out.
Who see the flags of all state buildings at half-mast in honor of those lives that were lost in this horrific act of violence. I also think that it's important to remember that what happened yesterday was akin to those who are old enough to remember jigsaw puzzles, and that you would take a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle and you empty the box and you've got to start sifting through those pieces, and you want to start, if you're real good, you start at the corners, right? Try to put your corners together. And from yesterday,
yeah, it's a good strategy, and the
to
edges.
Today, over 1,000 law enforcement agents and officers, men and women, have been poring over countless amounts of data, of videos, of surveillances, interviews, tracking down every possible lead that came to us, whether it was the New Orleans Police Department, the Louisiana State Police, the FBI, or our other federal agencies. Also yesterday, I issued an emergency declaration. That declaration was meant to streamline resources and communications between state, local, and federal partners. And we're seeing the results of it.
This is Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry.
That what's going on in this city and this state is twofold. We've got an active criminal investigation going on, while we're also continuing to secure the city in preparation for 3 o'clock kickoff time for the Sugar Bowl. With that, I would also remind those who are in the city that as far as state resources are concerned, we have the Louisiana State Police, the Louisiana National Guard, which was part of that emergency declaration, which allowed us to put an entire MP company on the ground. Those become force multipliers, is what we call that in law enforcement and the military. That helps to add to the resources that we have. Wildlife and Fisheries, the Department of Corrections, DSF, DHS, our Veterans Affairs, our Probation and Parole, all state agencies. Any state agency who has a post-certified officers are here in this city to help secure the city. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to Christopher Rea, who is the Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI's Counter Terrorism Division. Chris?
Thank you, Governor Landry. Good morning. I am FBI Deputy Assistant Director Christopher Rea. I'm from our Counterterrorism Division.
A little too close to Christopher Rea for me.
I'm also joined by Assistant Special Agent in Charge Alethea Duncan from our New Orleans office, who you heard from yesterday.
Christopher Rea.
I'm here to discuss not only the latest investigative information we have here in New Orleans, but I'll also let you know about other investigative activities outside of the state. I first, and most importantly, want to send our deepest condolences to the victims of this horrific attack and their loved ones. 14 innocent victims were killed in this senseless attack, and at least 35 are injured.
14.
We cannot ease the grief people in this community and across the nation are feeling at this time, but rest assured, we stand with you and in support of you. All the resources, and I'm going to go into that a little bit later, all the resources of the FBI are being focused on tracking down every piece of evidence, every lead, every interview, every potential lead we've got.
Maybe 15 was
While I
with the
won't be able to
killers?
answer all your questions today, my goal is to be as forthcoming as possible with you on what we've uncovered so far. First and foremost, let me be very clear about this point. This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and an evil act.
Okay.
This was obviously a critical incident, and with that, lots of information and tips come pouring in from law enforcement, first responders, and the public. We have been aggressively running down these tips and information. As you all know, that takes time, and we will continue to do so until every lead has been followed through on. This investigation is only a little more than 24 hours old. So I ask you to keep in mind that as I go through some of the specifics later. But at this point, currently, and this is another fact I want to be clear on, we do not assess at this point that anyone else involved in this attack except for Shamsuddin Jabbar. The
Lone
subject you've already been
actor?
briefed on.
Just like Matthew Crooks. Crazy.
A little bit about what the FBI is doing.
Weird.
So we are surging people and assets to the area from across the region and across the nation. Special agents in multiple field offices across the country have been deployed and are assisting with potential aspects of this investigation and following up on every lead. Additional teams of special agents, professional staff, and victim specialists continue to arrive to provide more investigative power and assistance to the victims and their families. We have also forward deployed a number of our critical incident response group assets, including members of our hostage rescue team, special agent bomb technicians, and crisis management coordinators. In addition, we have deployed more evidence response technicians to continue to process the various scenes that we have. So far, we have received just over 400 tips from the public, and that information is being followed up on both here in New Orleans and across the country. Some of the tips are here in New Orleans, and there are other tips in other states across the country that we are following up on. The FBI team and our law enforcement partners here are also reviewing hundreds of hours of surveillance and other video from both the French Quarter and other locations. As for a timeline, at this point, investigators believe Jabbar picked up the rented F-150 in Houston, Texas on December 30th. He then drove from Houston to New Orleans on the evening of the 31st, and he posted several videos to an online platform proclaiming his support for ISIS. There were 5 videos posted on Jabbar's Facebook account, which are time-stamped beginning at 1:29 a.m. and the last at 3:02 a.m. In the first video, Jabbar explains he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned the news headlines would not focus on the, quote, war between the believers and the disbelievers, end quote. Additionally, he stated he had joined ISIS before this summer. He also provided a will and testament. FBI and ATF. FBI. We have a couple different scenes at the location. We have released the scene at Bourbon Street. That scene has been released. We also have a scene off of Mandeville Address where we're currently searching that scene right now. FBI and ATF agents have secured that house, and that location is being searched for potential evidence. On New Year's morning, Jabbar opened fire after ramming through a blocked-off area of Bourbon Street, used his truck as a weapon to run over the victims. Teams of specially trained victim specialists, again, as I said, are on the ground here in New Orleans, assisting survivors of the attack and loved ones of the deceased. We do not believe the public is in any danger around any of these locations. 3 phones linked to Jabbar have been recovered, and digital media exploitation is a priority to see what is on the devices and determine if there are any other potential leads. Additionally, we have recovered 2 laptops and are currently reviewing them for any potential leads. Those laptops were recovered at the Mandeville address. Evidence technicians will also be going over the F-150 truck Jabbar was driving. As you know, we recovered an ISIS flag from the back of the vehicle. Jabbar declared his support for the terrorist group on social media, as I stated before, as he made his way to New Orleans. FBI bomb technicians also recovered 2 IEDs in coolers, one from the cross-section of Bourbon and Orleans Street, and the second at an intersection approximately 2 blocks away. There were multiple reports of other devices. Those reports turned out to be misinformation or not actual functioning devices. Those are the only 2 devices that we've been able to recover that were functional. Both devices were rendered safe on scene. We did obtain surveillance footage showing Jabbar placing the devices where they were found.
Wow.
2 other, as I said before, 2 other items of interest were determined not to be IEDs. A little bit about Jabbar. Jabbar himself was born in the United States and is a U.S. military veteran. We are looking in everything in his life. While we have interviewed many people who know Jabbar, we still need to talk to others. Whether you know Jabbar personally, worked with him, served in the military, or saw him in New Orleans or Texas, we need to talk to you. You may not think you have relevant information, but what you know could tie in to one of our investigative leads. Specifically, we want to talk to anyone who was in the French Quarter on New Year's Eve or early on New Year's Day. That includes people spotted near one of the 2 IEDs on Bourbon Street. The IED was inside a cooler, and many people stopped and looked at the cooler and then continued on their way. Let's be clear, again, we do not believe at this point these people are involved in this incident in any way. We want to speak to them as witnesses and want to know what they saw and when. I went down to the crime scene last night. It is very hard to put into words what it looked like and how difficult it was to see. Anyone with information can call us at 1-800-CALL-FBI or send digital tips to fbi.gov/Bourbon Street attack. Early this morning, evidence response teams finished their work at the crime scene. Bourbon Street has been turned over to the city of New Orleans. As you know, there's also an FBI investigation in Las Vegas. We are following up on all potential leads and not ruling everything out. However, at this point, there is no definitive link between the attack here in New Orleans and the one in Las Vegas. And again, I'll preface, as I close, I'll preface everything with
At
what I
this time.
started with in the beginning, which was this is very early in an
At this time,
investigation like
yeah.
this. Again, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims of this tragedy and everyone impacted across the country. They remain at the heart of our investigation. I also, although I've only been on the ground here a short time, I also want to express a sincere appreciation for our partners here, which include the U.S. Attorney's Office, HSI, ATF, the New Orleans PD, the Louisiana State Police, the Governor's Office, and countless others. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the Special Agent in charge of ATF here, Josh Jackson.
Hey, good afternoon. As stated, my name is Joshua Jackson. I am the Special Agent in charge for the ATF New Orleans Field Division. And ATF's primary mission is preventing, reducing, and solving violent crime throughout the United States and abroad. Solving part is the focus of this investigation. ATF resources that have been brought to bear to the city and to focus with our federal, state, and local partners have been our national response team. We spoke about the scene that's still being processed now. The national response team of ATF is a team of certified fire investigators, certified explosive specialists, fire engineers, electrical engineers. These folks will give us additional investigative leads to help the investigative team identify what happened at the location in Mandeville and identify how that fire started and move the investigation forward from there. Additional resources that ATF has brought to bear into the city. There's our ATF Special Response Team. This is a tactical team capable of handling any sort of enforcement operation. This team is deployed, on set, and ready for the Sugar Bowl today. This team is also made available to the Louisiana State Police and also New Orleans Police Department to assist with any efforts that they may have during this period. Additional resources, as the governor alluded to, he executed executive powers and had an emergency declared to where ATF was able to tap in to Emergency Support Function 13 resources. This allowed us to bring additional explosive detection canines so that we can safely sweep the city and safely sweep the Super Bowl in preparation for the game today. These resources will still be in the city as we lead up to the Super Bowl and through Mardi Gras. These type of ATF resources will be here. The last resources the ATF has brought to bear, and probably the most important one, is our victim witness coordinators. These folks come in and they provide resources to the victims and the family members that have suffered greatly during this tragedy. The entire city hurts, but the victims and the family members are in need of resources and care long after this investigation wraps up. This time next year to be hard for the families and friends who suffered during this event. So our victim witness coordinators are working with the FBI, the City of New Orleans coordinators to provide resources to these folks out here. And as we move forward, ATF will be committed. We will work with the investigative team moving this investigation forward, but also we'll be here to make sure the city is safe and prepared as we move into the Super Bowl. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our mayor of this great city, New Orleans. Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, good morning.
Not
once
much out of
again.
that guy, just
And I
hopes
just
and
want
dreams.
to just echo my thank yous to the unified command of our law enforcement partners and at every single level, federal, state, and governor. Governor, thank you.
Super Bowl's in Louisiana, in New Orleans this year, February 9th, for those who
I
didn't
also
know,
want to
like me.
thank the residents and the visitors of the city of New Orleans for your patience, for your support, and most of all, your prayers. Our hearts and prayers continue to go out to the victims' families, and the city of New Orleans, we're resilient. And as I stated on yesterday, my focus in terms of a priority has been on our victims. As you heard, that yes, the FBI was able to clear Bourbon Street. And what that meant also for me in this city was that we were able to remove our victims, identify them, and notify their families. real reverence. They mattered, the families matter, and matter to the city of New Orleans. In addition to that, I want to just thank again our federal partners in Washington, listening to my plea personally for the additional resources to allow for the scene to be cleared, and again, attending to our victims. I walked by each one, and I did the sign of cross in my own way, because reverence, again, is important. So while we have been able to have Bourbon Street returned back to the city of New Orleans, and the due diligence has been done, that then allowed me to give the go-ahead to begin the cleaning of Bourbon Street. That started happening in the morning about 2 a.m. It was completed before 8 a.m. this morning. But that has really set the tone, I would say, and with the confidence that I have in the law enforcement partners, all of the resources that have been activated, how we have made sure that safety continues to be our top priority, how our assets have been deployed strategically, again, for the safety and the protection of our visitors and our residents in the city. And because of that, the confidence is there to reopen Bourbon Street to the public prior to game time today. The first order will be to allow for vendors to come in and service the businesses. That's important in order for us to stand up activation, as you know, Governor. And so with that, I want to reassure the public that the city of New Orleans is not only ready for game day today, but we're ready to continue to host large-scale events in our city because we are built to host at every single turn. I want to, again, thank all of those who responded to the FBI's call for information and tips. As you heard, that has been useful. Continue to do that. The investigation is still active and absolutely under the FBI's leadership. We will continue to operate and cooperate as we always have. So I want to also thank all of our partners for the added resources for victim and crisis management. We know that that's, again, important. Working with our partner, the Greater New Orleans Foundation, we have set up a fund for our victims' families for not only today but into the future. As you heard, this is going to be a long process for our people. So with that, the city of New Orleans, and with all of my confidence, we are ready. And we could not get here, again, without the unified presence, support, and cooperation. We are stronger together. And I want to say, again, thank you so much. Thank you, Governor. So once again, the governor would like me to reiterate that Bourbon Street will be prepared for full activation before game time today. We know 3 p.m., so we're working towards 2:30 p.m. But prior to game time, the kickoff, Bourbon Street will be restored. So we're hard at work now. Our teams are now, and of course, working with our business community to serve our public and serve our residents and our visitors alike.
Okay. In closing, I want to
Governor's back, and then I think we'll get questions.
rest people assured. Right now in the city of New Orleans, there is an unprecedented amount of law enforcement resources that are being utilized to close out and to hunt down and to finalize this investigation. I want to thank the FBI and all of our federal partners for the amount of resources they have poured into the city. This type of event can happen in any city. And that's the tragedy of it. And I think it's important for people to understand that to protect
don't get mad at
our
us or
citizens
something?
in America from evil, you have to crush it. You can't go out there and placate it. You can't go out there and say, oh, I'm going to put this in place and that in place and hope that evil doesn't show up on your doorstep. because it will. You have to crush it. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to put it all behind us. We're going to continue to keep the victims, those that are in the hospital, either fighting for their lives or trying to recover, in our thoughts and in our prayers. But you know, this morning, and I don't want to single out just one news source, but I just happened to turn on Fox and Friends, and there was a young man who was interviewed, who was actually on Bourbon Street during this horrific act of terrorism. And they closed out by asking him, what now? And I think he summed it up. He said, look, we can't live in fear because fear will paralyze us. He said, we come down to the city to enjoy ourselves and to entertain ourselves and to be with our friends and with our families because that's who we are. Louisiana invented hospitality. The people in this city care for each other. And believe you me, we care about each one of the lives that were lost in this city and that. We will never forget them.
All right, look, I understand what he needs to do. He's the governor. He's got to come out and give a rah-rah speech. But I also think that people have the right to be skeptical when the story changes willy-nilly overnight. Turns out that the original reporting was this guy was working with accomplices and other people who were involved in this. Then they come out. They say there was no co-conspiracy or co-conspirators at all. There was only a lone actor, and we always have questions about that. And then they say, get out there and go to the sports games because we got the Super Bowl coming up and we've got some other important sugar bowls happening. And you've got Governor Jeff Landry, right, who comes out with posts like this and says, I ate dinner tonight, New Orleans, proud to be a part of this incredibly resilient city. See everyone at the game tomorrow, right? It's like football, football, football. He's out there with his friends. Cheers. We're not going to get run over. Everything's fine. This happens in cities like unlike our, all over the place. Don't worry about it. Make sure, though, you get your tickets and we'll see you at the event. So look, and I understand. George Bush did some of this after 9/11. He's like, people came out and they said, well, what should you do? He's like, go shopping, right? Just go buy something for the love of God. We need you to get out there and spend and get involved and not live in fear, which I can appreciate and endorse. But people also don't want to just bury this. I think that's what he said specifically. He says, we're just going to put this behind us. We're like, wait, what? What else happened here? How did this happen? And who is this guy? And how can you explain your different takes from 12 hours ago? We've got questions.
It would be a tragedy if we let their losses be snuffed out because of fear. This city will be back. We will be open to family and friends and loved ones who want some time to relax from the pressures of life. And so today, we're going to have us a sugar bowl. We're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to keep those, who have lost loved ones in mind. And we're going to get on to the business of this city and this great country. With that, I'll take any questions.
Governor, this is for you and the assistant director. The message has really changed since yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the FBI said that people should be vigilant, that he did not act alone, that he likely had help. And now you're coming out the very next day and saying he was a lone wolf, everything is safe, the game moves on.
Go have a beer.
Everybody have a good time. How can you be so sure just 12 hours later?
We're going to bring him up. All right, but here's what I want to remind everyone. Like I was a deputy sheriff, right? I worked in a jail. I worked on the street. I worked on the interstate.
Okay.
I served warrants. I can tell you. Look, in today's world, I get it. Information, we get information like that. Everybody lives in a 15-second TikTok video. We think that life operates like it does.
We do 2-hour streams here, buddy.
And it just doesn't. Information changes. In fact, that's why we ask the media for patience. We get information, like I said, no one dumps a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle and puts it together in 5 seconds. Okay? And what I would tell you is that I appreciate the fact that what we did was we're under-promising and over-delivering today. And I think that's important. And I want to remind something. Look, because over the last decade,
That's a
law
book, I
enforcement
think.
has taken it on the chin, unfairly. And there are great men and women serving in the FBI, in ATF, in Louisiana State Police, in New Orleans PD. Our sheriffs have been unbelievable in this. And I tell you, they want to protect you all.
Okay.
And we have to trust them. And sometimes the information we put out, we end up finding out that it may be incorrect. But guess what? What we're doing here is something that I think is important. It's called transparency.
Okay, so the info was wrong?
Look, something may change again. Here's what I do know, though.
After the game, you'll find
Right
out
now,
it was a
this is one of the
conspiracy?
safest places on earth. That doesn't mean that nothing can't happen.
We just want an
Thank you,
explanation,
Governor.
man.
And to echo exactly, I think the governor put it eloquently, as could be said.
But
In
I
a
have
lot
to
of these
fill in the gaps.
instances, I also had the opportunity to deploy to Boss Bomb, and I will tell you, this is almost carbon copy to Boss Bomb as far as the inaccurate reporting that comes up. And what the governor said is, we want to be transparent with the public. Years of the FBI not being transparent, we're being as transparent as we possibly can. And unfortunately, as we're being transparent, unfortunately for that, there is some information that we have to go back and recorrect. And in this particular incident, you heard the resources that we've brought, that the other state and locals have brought. We've had 24 hours now to go through media, to go through
So they were
phones,
just wrong.
to interview people, to
They were just wrong, I guess.
analyze those videos, analyze
Oops.
other databases. And after all of that, there's been hundreds and hundreds of leads done just in 24 hours. We're confident at this point that there is no accomplices. And I'll give you an idea of how that information sometimes, a lot
Thank
of the
you.
early reports.
We just
came
want
out
explanations,
that
yeah.
There were extra people that were setting the coolers down, right? It turns out those were just patrons on the street that were looking inside the coolers, right? Well, we didn't know that at first, so we had to kind of track all that down and put that to rest. So that's just an example, one of the pieces of information, but there were other pieces of information that, after we got our feet under us a little bit and on the ground here, we were able to put together a much more accurate picture of the subject and his attention.
Deputy Director, a couple things.
The updated death toll, we just wanted to double check.
the death
Yes.
toll.
14, not 15.
Yeah,
Sorry.
14, and then the shooter himself would be 15 total, to include the shooter.
And to clarify a couple things,
Mandatory-
the IEDs, were the IEDs pipe bombs, and have you discovered a remote detonator anywhere? And when you said that you have surveillance footage of the suspect planting those IEDs, what time roughly were they planted?
Yeah, those roughly a couple hours. I don't have the exact times in front of me. A couple hours prior to the
Before midnight,
to
after
attack.
you know if it was-
Probably after midnight. After midnight. I want to say 1 or 2 in the morning,
So
but I
he
can't.
left the area and came back.
Correct. That's our assumption now. I mean, we still have a lot to work through. We're getting more surveillance video and everything else, but that's the assumption.
So
Were
he was there a
sweeps
couple
being done-
hours
were there
and then
sweeps
drove
being done on
around.
Bourbon Street? Would there have been canines out on New Year's Eve? Would there have been bomb sweeps done
Look,
as
I
part of
think-
the regular
I think-
precautions?
Let me just say this, and either Joe or
Should the
Rob will
dogs have caught
correct
the
me.
Bombs?
Look, a bomb dog doesn't operate like a drug dog, right? On Bourbon Street, there's a lot of senses, right? A lot of smells. I don't think you can run a bomb dog
That's for
down
sure.
Bourbon Street with thousands of people there and be able to sniff out a bomb. What we've been doing, what they have been doing, is certainly a complete sweep of the quarter because of the limited amount of traffic that's been out there. Let me just say this. I think this may help. It would be my hope that as some additional time goes through, maybe closer to maybe the beginning of next week, we will, if we've got it to what extent buttoned up as we could, I would work with the FBI and the city, and maybe we can come up with a timeline to be able to get you those information, kind of walk everyone through from day one through. I think it's extremely premature, and you're really putting us on some speculative grounds to ask some of those questions, because again, it's only been 24 hours. I mean, can you imagine?
We'll
how far we've
get you
come in
the
24 hours?
answers after
So,
the game,
Just
okay?
clarify
Leave us
if there
alone.
was pipe bombs and a remote detonator.
We'll go one at a time.
That it was New Year's Eve. Are temporary bollards being brought in to block off the street, and why weren't those used on New Year's Eve?
Well, look, here's what I'm going to say. Every time some bad guy does something like this, there's what we call an after-action review. Because again, nothing is 100%. We have reinforced the area. We have deployed some additional types of assets. I personally, it's up to the city or other, I don't like to give specifics because I don't like to tell the enemy what we got. But I can tell you we're in better shape than we were.
There is no enemy. You just said he's dead. He was a lone wolf.
Director Ray, excuse me, what brought him down this road?
Can you speak to the Mandeville scene?
And then we'll go to you.
Some neighbors at that site told us they smelled smoke early in the morning. Was there a fire there? Any kind of burning happening?
Yeah,
Do you
great.
still believe that fire happened after the suspect was killed?
That's correct. Yeah, I'll move to 18. I do want to address the suicide vest question. I want to kill that one right away. Okay. There was no evidence that the subject was wearing a suicide vest at all. So I will turn the Mandeville stuff over to ATF.
Yeah, as to the fire at the Mandeville scene, so our working theory now is that the fire started after Jabbar was already deceased. There's a lot of different ways that can happen. You could have different time devices. You could have a long cord that extended that time. You could also have pressure cookers that were put on top of the stove filled with gasoline, and then it went off. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but that is why our ATF National Response Team is here to answer those questions and get that investigative lead back to our team. So more to come on that. We're still processing that scene. We're out there right now.
What do we understand about how he became radicalized over all of this time? What brought him to Bourbon Street? Do we understand, was there any international travel involved? What led him down this path to this sort of radicalization?
Sure, a lot of questions we're still asking ourselves. We know that he specifically picked out Bourbon Street. Not quite sure why. I mean, I think one can assume that it was lots of people New Year's Eve, with a target for an attack. That's the stuff in the coming days as far as that path to radicalization that we're really going to be digging into and making a priority of. So what I can tell you right now is that he was 100% inspired by ISIS, and so we're digging through more of the social media, more interviews, working with some of our other partners to ascertain just how to ascertain a little bit more about that connection.
Mayor, what gives you the confidence?
We're gonna do one more. Kate.
Right there. You've had your hand up for a while. Sir.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's actually for Special Agent Wright. Sir,
I prefer those. So much.
In order to reassure people, would you be able to explain the analysis and evidence that has led to this most recent understanding that he was a lone actor and that there is at this point, at least from your understanding, no further danger to the
Media doesn't believe him.
I think a lot of that, multiple interviews, the hundreds of interviews that we've conducted so far, the social media review that we've done of his accounts, by my count now, the 5 devices we have, the 3 cell phones and the 2 laptops, been able to initially triage or go through that, and there is just nothing to indicate through call records, through anything on those devices, through interviews, through anything in our systems that he was aided in this attack by anybody. And again, I have to caveat, like the governor said, this is 24 hours into it. And that could change, but right now we've got a much better picture and much more confidence on what we were dealing with than we were.
So he wasn't
Mayor,
working or talking to
Thank
anybody?
y'all. Thank y'all so very much. Again,
Mayor, what gives you the confidence to
again,
say
we
to
are
people
going
that
to
they
try
should
to
come to your
get
city
y'all
for
as
big
much
events?
information as possible. So any additional information will be put out through press releases. Thank you so very much.
Moving forward, are
Mayor.
we going to be making Bourbon Street a pedestrian only, or are we going to be allowing cars to drive through?
Hot mic. Let's see. Now they're piling out. All right, so interesting dynamic there. You can see even the media is skeptical about their new theory that he was another lone wolf actor, just like Thomas Matthew Crooks, the guy who shot Trump in the head. Very convenient how that happens. And I wonder if they'll torch this dude's body within the next 12 days, 10 days, and make it so nobody can inquire further. But interesting things, 2 IEDs that maybe he just Googled, built himself. Maybe he learned that in the military. He also had 3 phones, 2 laptops, And sometimes I'll carry around an extra cell phone, but it's not a live cell phone. It's just kind of a backup recording device, because I can record and use this one while I'm recording. But does he do that, or are those active? Does he have 3 different numbers, like a business line, a personal line, and an ISIS line? Don't really know. But he worked alone all of a sudden. The bombs didn't work, so there's some level of incompetency there, or whatever. That didn't work, and something didn't happen. So that's interesting. Military veteran, somebody who is posting on Facebook just minutes before, hours before the event. Some interesting questions about the timeline and who dropped off those IEDs. It looks like maybe it was him before he circled back and then did the vehicle attack. People are begging there for information from anybody who may know more about the guy. But interesting press conference in that they just reversed themselves very aggressively. And there's a bunch of other stuff that I had queued up on this, but it's all kind of reversed and moot and old because they came out and said the opposite of a lot of it. Now, Joe Biden was also out talking about this yesterday, and I thought that I had that one queued up. Let me see if I do. He was on C-SPAN, and he came out and gave a little press briefing about it. Let me grab that while we're here to see what the president said. He had some remarks on this, and let's see where that was. Here it is from our current president. Not looking good.
After the despicable attack that occurred in the early morning hours, to all the families of those who were killed, to all those who were injured, to all the people of New Orleans who are grieving today, I want you to know I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you. We're going to stand with you as you mourn and as you heal in the weeks to come. I want to thank our brave first responders and law enforcement personnel who stopped the attacker in his tracks before he could kill or injure even more people. And I want to thank you to everyone at the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, including the FBI, for working nonstop to investigate this heinous act. The FBI is leading the investigation to determine what happened, why it happened, and whether there was any continuing threat to public safety. Here's what we know so far. The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill. The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack. Possible explosives were found in the vehicle as well, and more explosives were found nearby. The situation is very fluid, and the investigation has a preliminary stage. And the fact is that right now, there you go. The law enforcement and intelligence community are continuing to look for any connections, associations, or co-conspirators. We have nothing additional to report at this time. The investigation is continuing to be active, and no one should jump to conclusions. I've directed my Attorney General, the FBI Director, the Secretary of Homeland Security,
they're all getting fired,
the National Counterterrorism Center, and the intelligence community to work on this intensively until we have a full and complete information. And once we have that information, I will share that information as soon as we can confirm it.
Whatever. You're fired in 18 days.
We're tracking the explosion of a cyber truck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Law enforcement and the intelligence community are investigating this as well, including whether there's any possible connection with the attack in New Orleans. Thus far, there's nothing to report on that score at this time. I've directed my team to make sure every resource is made available to federal, state, and local law enforcement to complete the investigation in New Orleans quickly and to make sure there's no remaining threat to the American people. And we'll support the people of New Orleans as they begin the hard work of healing.
Teleprompter sped up there.
New Orleans is a place unlike any other place in the world. It's a city full of charm and joy. So many people around the world love New Orleans because of its history, its culture, and above all, its people. So I know, while this person committed a terrible assault on the city, the spirit of our New Orleans will never, never, never be defeated. It always will shine forth. We've seen that time and time again throughout its history, and I know we'll see it again in the days and weeks ahead. May God bless the people of New Orleans. May God bless our police and our first responders. May God protect our troops, and we'll keep you fully, contemporaneously informed. Thank you.
Have you spoken to President Trump?
Are you concerned about more attacks?
Have you spoken to President Trump?
Investigated as a
Bye.
attack?
See ya, Joe. Thanks for nothing. All right, so that's the president. Not much coming out from him because what's he going to do or say? He can't do or say much of anything. President Trump has responded on Truth. The president-elect, incoming 47, says, "When I said that the criminals are coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. Our hearts are with all of the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil." From the president. And of course, there are more updates on a lot of this. You can see CNN was saying originally that 15 people were killed, number revised down to 14 people because the 15th person was the dead terrorist. Here is the latest. They tell us law enforcement searches a Houston location that they think is connected to the suspect, saying that they've been there. FBI posted about that as well. 15 dead. So this article is looking like it is a little old. This is the latest. Moments of silence are going to be held ahead of the Sugar Bowl. You can see the attacker, they say, was 100% inspired by ISIS. Neighbor says the suspect loaded a truck in Houston and said he was moving to Louisiana for a job. A neighbor of Jabbar said that he saw the New Orleans attack suspect loading a white truck in front of his Houston home with light stuff on Tuesday. Jabbar said that he was moving to Louisiana to start a new job. Bashir lives with his wife and 5 children next door, said that he believed the truck had been there for just one night. So you need a hand moving? Tried to help him out as a neighbor, like a neighborly thing to do. He's like, no, don't go to New Orleans. Asked what kind of job Jabbar said what he got in Louisiana. He said IT related. They said he was a private, quiet person who was nice, but largely minded his own business, according to Bashir. He recalls Jabbar and that his mother lived with him, but hadn't seen her in months. Also said that he knew Jabbar was Muslim, but was not aware he had converted recently. Said he'd never seen Jabbar at the nearby mosque, but that Jabbar told him he prayed at home. Bashir, who said he was still shocked and very saddened by what took place, said he saw no red flags. Now, we always wonder if the FBI had him on their radar or not. We saw the timeline between 1 and 2 a.m. They say that they saw him planting improvised explosive devices at the intersection on Bourbon in New Orleans, 2 blocks away. The IED was inside a cooler. Many people stopped and looked at it. And they're like, is that a bomb? Well, probably not. Set it back down. Jabbar posts the first, well, I'm not taking that home. Jabbar posts 5 videos to Facebook saying that he was going to originally harm his family, but he was concerned the headlines would be focused on that. So he went down to a New Year's celebration. 3 phones recovered, 14 people killed, and that story is still going to be percolating. Now, what was interesting about this is yesterday there was another press briefing with this woman who was shoved out of the way by Ted Kennedy because she was so incompetent. And we didn't see her today at the press briefing, but this was what we saw yesterday. So we saw Landry is there, Louisiana Senator Kennedy, and this woman who was the person who said that it was an event and said it was not terrorism originally, were there yesterday. And so I was going to play this full exchange, but since we've just overlapped that with the most recent press briefing, we'll skip over it. But there was still an interesting segment here because Senator Kennedy threw this FBI agent right out of the podium and said, "Get out of here. You're doing a terrible job." Let me explain what the heck's happening here.
That the suspect acted alone. About how many more suspects are you guys looking into at this point?
It's a range of suspects. Right now with the FBI, we do not run a rule anything else, so that's why we're asking if anyone has had any interaction with the deceased subject Jabbar in the last 72 hours. Provide us with this information. You can provide us that information through 1-800-CALL-FBI or our digital tips line, which is available on our social media website, as well as the big FBI website.
Can I say something right there? Tell me who you're with.
WDSU.
WDSU. Okay, and CBS.
NBC's over here on the right.
Oh, that's unusual position.
Move! Move!
You wouldn't. Look, the FBI is not going to be able to answer those questions. Okay?
Get out the way!
I promise you. Okay? Once the FBI has a chance to investigate all this, along working with state police, working with Homeland Security, working with the city of New Orleans, they're going to tell you what happened. I can promise you that. Or I'm going to raise fresh hell. But right now, they're in the process of trying to catch the other bad guys.
What other bad guys?
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt for a while.
26.
You can come back now.
The victims, I know that there was obviously gunfire exchange, so I guess how many victims were shot and then how many were injured?
Look, again, let me reiterate both Special Agent Duncan and Senator Kennedy. There's a lot of, I get that y'all want to know minute details. What we don't want to do is impede this investigation or spend any time talking about things that don't get us closer to hunting these folks down and securing the city. And so at a particular point in time, we will release as much information as we can. But at this time, in relation to the investigation, I would ask y'all to refrain from those.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if we're going to just have more of the same as the governor just said, we're going to provide that information, but we're going to wrap the press conference now.
All right, let's go back and see what Kennedy said earlier.
Details on that in the coming hours, but for now, that's the plan, that we're going to move forward and play the game. And again, we reiterate our thanks to everyone up here for the important work they're doing. We live in the fun and games world with what we do, but we certainly recognize the importance of this, and we're going to support it 100%. So thank you.
I'd like to bring up Senator Kennedy.
I wish I understood better why bad things happen to good people. If I make it to heaven, I'm going to ask. For those people who don't believe in objective evil, all you have to do is look at what happened in our city early this morning. I am, if this doesn't trigger the gag reflex of every American, every fair-minded American, I'll be very surprised. I'm here because these are my people. I'm here because these are my people's friends. I'm here because there are a lot of Louisianians that are scared tonight. I don't want them to be. There's a lot of information going around. Some of it is actually true. Some of it isn't. The federal government is now in charge of this investigation. By that I mean the White House, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Justice. I have not talked to the FBI. Maybe they've talked to my staff. I don't know. I did talk to the Secretary of Homeland Security a little while ago. And I told him that with all the respect I could muster, that we expect our local police departments, our sheriffs, we've got many sheriffs here today, have been terrific so far. The federal government is cooperating with them. I hope that will continue. Here's what I want to ask from the federal government. Catch these people. Catch these people. And then tell the American people the truth. Now, I don't want you to tell us yet anything that's going to interfere with your investigation. And there are things that I've been told that I think are true that I'm not sharing with you today because it could interfere with their investigation. But after we get to the bottom of this, they need to tell the American people the truth, and the people of New Orleans the truth, and the people of America the truth. I think the mayor and the governor are very wise to postpone this ball game for 24 hours. There's just too much stuff we don't know, and it's just not worth it.
Wow, that attitude has changed.
I guess my final point is, I will promise you this. I will, when it is appropriate and this investigation is complete, you will find out what happened and who was responsible. Or I will raise fresh hell. And I will chase those in the federal government who are responsible for telling us what happened, like they stole Christmas.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Congressman Carter?
So a lot of concern back then. Looks like they did postpone the game for 24 hours, and so now everything's great. So very concerning, but they've now identified that this guy acted alone, and so the game is on. Go out and enjoy. So we'll keep our eye on this, obviously, what's happening here. There was also more elsewhere. Now, this was one that popped up, and we saw this report, but it doesn't look like it's related. There was another report that there was a shooting in New York outside of a Jamaica neighborhood and injured 10. Nobody was killed on this, but I know many people were covering this last night. Good Logic, Joe Neerman was covering this. 10 people were injured in New York City late Wednesday night. We woke up this morning to this news. Said when 3 or 4 men fired about 30 bullets into a crowd. 3 or 4 dudes shot 30 bullets into a crowd, and no one died. So, all right, that's almost a miracle. 3 or 4 gunmen had fired towards a crowd as they approached the venue, striking several people. They escaped in a car with out-of-state plates and flew. He said the victims were 6 women, 4 men. Ages range 16 to 20 were expected to recover. The police were not investigating the shooting as a terrorist attack, drive-by, maybe gang-related. The address where Chief Rivera said the shooting took place, a New York Times photographer arrived at the scene minutes later. Nobody wanted to answer any questions. People declined to give their names. No shots fired inside. And a bunch of people hit, but not life-sustaining injuries. So, all right, that's a miracle. And glad that happened, but that they're not dead. But the suspects are apparently still at large, so they're roaming around. So a lot of law enforcement agencies have their hands full. All right, now let's turn our attention over to what's happening in Las Vegas, and we'll keep our eye on the cables as well. In fact, here's what the cables got cooking for us right now. Fox News reporting the following.
Furniture, but the drawers open and everything, most likely from that raid. You could also see outside where the fence is, it was just completely ripped off the metal there. I want to take you, though, directly to that video so you could check it out for yourselves here. This, again, is the aftermath of that FBI and SWAT raid, that metal fence just on the ground. We also saw sheep and chickens outside the property. Now, I spoke to a neighbor who says that he was living here for about a year. He says the white Ford pickup truck used in the attack was parked outside for one night outside of the trailer. He saw it himself. The neighbor, who wanted to stay anonymous, described this as a religious, tight-knit, conservative Muslim community with a mosque just a minute away.
When he comes in, he was Muslim. As a Muslim, I know. I didn't know what happened to him before. I didn't know anything before. What his background was. I was in the military. I learned anything just everybody else learning as well. Now I know he was a nice, quiet neighbor.
Further back, there are more. And according to court records, he has 3 kids and went through 2 divorces, claiming major money issues and tens of thousands of dollars in debt, and could no longer pay for his home, and said he also had issues with child support. Now, the FBI said he drove from Houston to New Orleans on the 31st. He posted a series of videos on his Facebook account. In the videos, he says he originally planned to harm his family and friends, and the neighbor that you just heard from there said he even saw his son here before outside the house riding his bike before. His daughters also visited. He said, though, in those videos that he was concerned the news headlines wouldn't focus on the, quote, war between the believers and disbelievers. FBI also says that in those videos on Facebook, he says he joined ISIS this summer. Now, I do want to note this is a man, a U.S. citizen from Texas who served in the Army for nearly a decade. The FBI says he served roles as a human resource specialist and also an IT specialist. So definitely a drastic change from serving in the Army to now being accused as a suspect in this deadly terrorist attack, guys.
Yep, sounds like a total 180 in his life.
All right, so that was obviously a big update on what was happening there in New Orleans. We'll keep our eye on that one. Now, let's turn our attention to Las Vegas, because this is also another interesting one that is still under investigation. And we're waiting for an update today on this one. We'll see if we get one. But new footage of the Tesla that was parked in front of Trump Hotel filled with explosives that exploded. They now have ID'd the individual who was apparently driving the car. There's the footage that is inside the building that we've seen previously, but outside from a security camera, you can see this is what it looked like when the vehicle went up. And in fact, what we see in the aftermath of this look like fireworks. And yesterday, as we were going through this, as it was breaking essentially in real time, we didn't see this footage. Certainly sounded like fireworks. We heard them whizzing around on the videotape, but we didn't know if those were battery packs or something else weird happening. And it turns out they were, in fact, fireworks. So it looks like this is the footage from outside the Trump Hotel. And people were definitely injured after that went off. You can see that guy standing right there is not having a good time. The valet people were there. And we were right there over the summer. We had our Vegas Watcher family meetup there at Trump Hotel in Vegas. We were standing right there coming in and out of that doorway. And so it's surreal to see when you were standing right there, bombs exploding out there. Now, there was a full news conference that was taking place that we'll go through, but they now have officially ID'd the person who was responsible for it. Here's a little excerpt from NBC.
As you know,
we saw that before, so we'll come back on that. But here was the press briefing from the Sheriff's Department after this occurred yesterday.
Sheriff of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I'm here to give you really a brief update on what occurred on Las Vegas Boulevard this morning. As you know, we just had our New Year's Eve event where we successfully protected the city, where over 400,000 people were here last night. And that changed this morning at about 8:40 when a 2024 Tesla Cybertruck pulled into the area valet of the Trump International Hotel. Very quickly thereafter that, the driver, who was the sole occupant of the truck, we saw what looked like maybe some sort of smoke, and then the truck exploded. Smoke was coming from inside of the truck after we noticed the flash and the explosion, and I'm going to show you that first video. That's the Cybertruck parked right in front of the doors.
Wild.
Can you play that again, Carlos? So the individual that was in that truck is obviously deceased, still in the truck as we speak here today. Our fire department folks, Engine 12, a number of others, you'll hear from one of the fire chiefs here in just a moment, arrived very quickly along with my officers. And obviously we knew that we had a much larger event than just a vehicle fire. And so There's going to be a drone video that plays to my left again. You'll see as the fire initially, they covered it with a tarp to try to get it to go out. Once the fire went out through the suppression efforts of the fire department, you'll see some of the evidence in the back of the vehicle. So those are gasoline canisters. They are camp fuel canisters and large firework mortars. What I also would like you to pay attention to on that video, as you see that, it looks like the exterior of that truck is completely intact as it sits there. The fact that this was a cyber truck really limited the damage that occurred inside of the valet.
Shout out to Elon.
It had most of the blast go up through the truck and out. In fact, if you look on that video, you'll see that the front glass doors at the Trump hotel were not even broken by that blast, which they were parked directly in front of. You can see that in the video there.
Pathetic explosion. Not even scrape. Somebody went out with some Windex. They were fine.
What I will update, I'm very well aware that there's a name already been reported out into the media. I am not going to confirm any names to you as I sit here today because I cannot do that with 100% certainty of who the individual is. What I can tell you is we do know the truck was rented in Colorado. We were able to trace that truck through the Tesla charging stations, and it arrived here in Las Vegas this morning at about 7:30 and went up and down Las Vegas Boulevard before immediately pulling into the Trump Towers. Unfortunately, there were 7 people that reported injuries during this incident. All of them still remain as minor injuries and were treated at UMC. I would like to thank the Resorts World because, as you know, we had to close down the Trump and evacuate it, as well as the Fashion Show Mall. And the Resorts World was very gracious in taking those hundreds of individuals in over there, housing them and feeding them prior to us being able to completely clear the hotel. The hotel and Fashion Show are back open for business. The Trump will remain closed as we continue this lengthy investigation as we move forward. I'm going to yield now to Chief Billy Samuels, but I'd like you to also recognize all of our exceptional elected officials that have come to support the police and the fire department and this community in remaining safe. There is no further threat to the community as I sit here today. And I just want to make sure that our community understands we believe this to be an isolated incident, and it is now over as far as the danger. So, Billy?
Thank you, Sheriff. I'm going to reiterate some of the stuff that the Sheriff has spoken upon. Engine 12 did arrive within 4 minutes of dispatch, did extinguish the fire with assistance from the sprinkler systems, and along with that electric vehicle blanket that we use on those operations. We did encounter 7 victims, all stable. 2 of them were transported to UMC, who have since been released. They were transported by community ambulance. A total of 13 units from Clark County Fire with 26 personnel, and then 4 units and 17 personnel from Las Vegas Fire and Rescue assisted with this operation. We always do appreciate the support that we get from our hotel partners, as the Sheriff was mentioning with Resorts World. RTC did lend us 10 buses so we can refuge the people that were evacuated from the Trump Tower. Community Ambulance for their transportation for us, Las Vegas Fire and Rescue, and Nevada Division of Emergency Management. And we do appreciate their support, so we can't do that without them. And like the Sheriff said, last night was a huge success, but we are prepared for whatever comes our way. So thank you for that. And I will turn this over to Special Agent in Charge, Jeremy Schwartz.
FBI.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Schwartz. I'm currently the Acting Special Agent in Charge for the FBI here in Las Vegas. The FBI is currently conducting an investigation on a vehicle explosion, as the Sheriff had just shown you a little bit ago. That's being conducted through our JTTF, which is a Joint Terrorism Task Force. I want to make sure everybody understands that the task force is comprised of law enforcement officials from the entire valley here. We're not doing anything alone, and we wouldn't do anything alone without our partners making sure that we're all in lockstep. We've learned from mistakes in the past, and we're not going to do that again. We have a great relationship with our law enforcement partners, and we're going to continue to do so. As of right now, our number one goal is to ensure that we have the proper identification of the subject involved in this incident, Following that, our second objective is to determine whether this was an act of terrorism or not. I know everybody's interested in that word and trying to see if we can say, hey, this is a terrorist attack. That is our goal, and that's what we're trying to do. We have a ton of resources dedicated to this right now, and again, we're doing it with our partners. We're doing it together, jointly, and we'll continue to do so until we figure out exactly what's going on. I think most importantly, as the sheriff already mentioned, we believe this is an isolated incident. We do not believe that there's a bunch of folks out there supporting this or helping this, and we don't believe that there's any other danger to the community right now. But again, over the next few hours and days, we will continue to do our best to research that as much as we can and get to the bottom of this, and we won't stop until we're 100% certain as to what happened and why. Thank you.
So I just want to clarify again so that I don't get these questions. We do know who rented the truck. We are looking at that individual, but I am not prepared to release the name of any of the individuals that we are looking at.
We have the name.
At least until next of kin is notified and we have a 100% identification. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have. I can't see. Hi, Dana.
Do you think it's a coincidence that there were these kinds of incidents on the same day, basically, in two tourism capitals?
Do I think it's a coincidence? I don't know, but what I can tell you is we're absolutely investigating any connectivity to what happened in New Orleans, as well as other attacks that have been occurring around the world. We're not ruling anything out yet, Dana.
Is there any possibility that this had a link to ISIS? There have been suggestions that the New Orleans attack might have.
Yeah, so the question is there any links to ISIS? And I will tell you that we don't have any indication of that here in Las Vegas, no overt ISIS flag as was seen in New Orleans. But again, we are investigating every aspect of this, and if that comes to light, we'll certainly update you. I'm sorry, sir.
What was the time between the truck's arrival and the explosion?
About 1 hour was the amount of time between the arrival of the truck here in Las Vegas, or at least our first notification of the arrival and the explosion that occurred at the tower.
How long were you in the porte-cochere before the explosion?
It was only there for about, it was sitting in the porte-cochere for about 15 seconds before it exploded. Was that 15? Where'd Dory go? The 15 to 20 seconds, I just want to make sure I gave you the right info.
The connection of the Elon Musk, Tesla, Donald Trump connection to be interesting from an investigative perspective?
Well, I mean, it's a Tesla truck, and we know that Elon Musk is working with President-elect Trump, and it's the Trump Tower, so there's obviously things to be concerned about there, and that's something we continue to look at.
Have you all found re-examine security procedures at hotels?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that question. Do we need to re-examine security procedures? We were very successful in the night before. I'm surprised this happened, to be quite frank with you, and that's certainly something we're going to have to look at in target hardening, what that looks like. But to your question, Dana, I did forget to mention that I have authorized what we call an ABX roster to continue for the next 2 days, which is my New Year's Eve staffing plan of over 1,000 officers, both in our community neighborhoods as well as on the Strip and downtown, in partnership with all of the other law enforcement agencies, City of Las Vegas Marshals, North Las Vegas, Henderson, just to ensure that even if we had a copycat or somebody else wanted to go up and conduct an attack, that we have the appropriate and available resources to handle it.
Have you all found any devices inside the Cybertruck that could have been used to set off those explosives?
No, the question is, did
Like
we
a
find any
detonator?
devices that would be used to set off the explosives? And the answer is no, I don't know how they were ignited. Clearly, with what you see in there, something set them off, but I don't know what it was yet. We haven't been able to process the vehicle yet.
Has LVMPD been in contact with Tesla Code to get the analytics from the vehicle, cameras?
Yes, actually, I have to thank Elon Musk specifically. He gave us quite a bit of additional information in regards to how the vehicle was
See that
locked
FBI guy?
after it exploded due to the force of the nature of the force from the explosion, as well as being able to capture all of the video from the Tesla charging stations across the country, and he sent that directly to us, so I appreciate his help on that. I'll take one more question. I'm sorry, you got to speak up for me.
Elon Musk is saying this vehicle and the vehicle in New Orleans were rented from the same company. Has there been any other indication that these two events might be associated?
I think both came from Turo.
The question is both vehicles, I'm being told New Orleans was rented from Turo, and so was ours. That's another coincidence that absolutely is continuing to bear from our investigation that we have to continue to look into. So thank you very much, and as we get additional information for all of you, I'm sorry, I'll give you a shout.
Are you investigators using any of the city license plate readers this evening?
That's the question is, are we using the license plate readers and the technology? Well, one, you see the drone flight through the vehicle because it was unsafe to get there, so that we're using that technology.
We got drones.
Thankful to have it, as well as the first indication of that vehicle arriving here in Las Vegas came from a license plate reader. So technology has been very useful to us in resolving this. And again, I'll commit to come back to you all when we have confirmation of the suspect's name, who they are, what their background is. We will get that information back out to you. We'll call another press conference and provide it. I just like to, again, thank the mayor, the commissioners, the other law enforcement leaders, and of course our attorney general for showing up and supporting us in this event. It's been a statewide effort, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so that is from yesterday. We do have the name now, and it's funny when he was thanking Elon Musk, it's like almost the FBI guy looked down. He's like, oh, damn it, Elon. See that right there? Yeah, all right. So interesting press conference with some information. We got to see inside the back of the vehicle, see that there's looks like some gas canisters and some other incendiaries. What those are exactly, these cylindrical coiled up items. Looks like maybe some lighter fluid dumped on top of it all. I mean, who knows what was in there. But the story is that the guy's name is Matthew Livelsberger. And the Daily Mail has a good write-up for us on this that we can take a look at as soon as we can put it in this little box right here. Here's what they tell us. Who is Matthew Livelsberger, the bomber in the Las Vegas Cybertruck explosion? He's married Green Beret from Colorado Springs, which is curious. Telling us that the bomber is a long-serving married Green Beret who was on leave from active duty. Livelsberger, age 37, identified by law enforcement sources as the bomber from Wednesday, which left 7 wounded. The electric vehicle exploded, except not really. The bomb exploded in the electric vehicle after the driver pulled up to the front of the hotel entrance. The blast was caused by a bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck, or very large fireworks. Okay, that's what Elon Musk said. And he actually posted about this on X. And here's what he said when he was addressing this. He wrote, "We have now confirmed that the explosion was caused by the very large fireworks and or a bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself. All vehicle telemetry was positive at the time of the explosion." Said the whole senior Tesla team is investigating this. We'll pull more information as we get it, tell you what it is. We've never seen anything like this before because it was a bomb. It wasn't the vehicle. Livelsberger was profiled by a local newspaper in Ohio. He died in the bombing. He lived in Colorado Springs, was an active member of the Army, previously received the Meritorious Honor Award for work benefiting the U.S. Embassy in Tajikistan. What? He grew up in Ohio and was profiled by a local newspaper for being in Afghanistan, married to a social worker called Sarah Livelsberger, who in the lead up to the 2016 election shared a slew of Facebook posts spouting anti-Trump rhetoric. So his wife is a TDSer. According to CBS News, Livelsberger was on break from duty in Germany when he carried out the attack. His wife hadn't heard from him in several days. Property records reveal the couple purchased a home in Colorado Springs together in 2015. However, police have linked Livelsberger to several addresses throughout the city, including a different townhouse that was raided by the FBI overnight. Here's a photo of the guy, of the bomber. Here's a photo of him and his wife. And I'm looking at that t-shirt and wonder what that means. He says, few details have been made about the alleged bomber's personal life, but he appeared to be married to a social worker, both pictured there, slew of Facebook pictures, identified by law enforcement sources. He's suspected of renting a Cybertruck in Colorado Springs, driving it across the border to Nevada on Wednesday to carry out the attack. Law enforcement sources have also revealed that he previously served at the same military base as Jabbar, who on Wednesday drove a rented Tesla truck into a crowd of New Year's revelers, which I don't think that's accurate. I think that was an F-150, wasn't it? Killing at least 15 people and wounding others. think it was an electric truck. Police have not confirmed if the pair were known to each other. Jabbar served at Fort Liberty in North Carolina, previously known as Fort Bragg, and that must be where Livelsberger previously lived in an address close to the base, but investigators have yet to confirm if that is the same base. Livelsberger has served in the Army for 19 years, majority of which has spent in the Special Forces unit. So he's a Special Forces guy, and he rigs together a terrible bomb. While holding that position, Livelsberger also worked for nearly a one-year contract with an aerospace and defense firm called General Dynamics. He alleges he engineered and fielded the first mobile standoff hyperspectral imaging light guard Minotaur system. So the guy's like a genius. He also moved in 2015 into an intelligence and operations role within the Special Forces and got a meritorious honor award. He was recognized by the U.S. ambassador for, quote, interagency contributions that resulted in increased interoperability and efficiency while serving as the operations sergeant at the Special Operations Command Forward Central Asian States. Within the embassy, he wrote on LinkedIn. He became an operations manager for the Special Forces and a team sergeant in 2023, then moved into his remote and autonomous systems role in November. And then he just got sick of it and decided to just end it all and blow himself up. His LinkedIn profile also touts proficiency in French and certifications in unmanned aircraft systems. What? And then he's like, I'm going to blow up the building with a gallon of gasoline. What? Here's the dude. Tesla's Cybertruck exploded about 15 seconds after he pulled up. The blast was caused by a bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck, or very large fireworks. Here's the dude with his dog. Sarah said, look what I got in the mail. She posted this on Facebook. As a surprise, perks of being a registered Democrat. Hashtag excited woman. I can't wait to slap this baby on my truck. Stop bigotry. Okay, with a picture of Trump. Stop bigotry. That's what gets Democrats excited. All right. So here she also posted this. I was trying to keep Trump's name off my feed in mind since my rant a couple weeks ago, but you just pushed me too far again, fella. Trump needs to spend less time on Twitter posting and deleting tweets and more time focusing on maybe a god-dang platform of some sort. And then talks about Hillary and vaginas and stuff. All right. Then says more. Hates Trump. Said, Ipsy finally sent me a lip color that matches my girls just want to have fundamental rights. Fundamental rights, which is endless abortions, I guess. Says she has the guy has a limited social media presence, but Sarah's very active on Facebook in 15 and 16. Now, Sarah, who according to her profile studied political science and social work, revealed that she was a registered Democrat in a post from May 16. She shared a photo of a sign featuring a cartoon, Stop Bigotry. Also shared a screenshot of a tweet posted by Trump in 15, writing that he needs to spend less time on Twitter. She has not been tied to the bombing. They went to a honeymoon in Carmen, Mexico. The Tesla Cybertruck arrived 7:30 in the morning, then exploded as we've seen here. Here's another image of the aftermath. Suspected bomber is like a super X Special Forces genius. The explosion took place 8:40. Surveillance footage showed the $80,000 car explode in a blaze. Debris smoked as it pinged off the pavement, and fireworks were blasting all over the place. Livelsberger was the sole fatality in the attack. The authorities largely credit Musk's hulking stainless steel truck from preventing much more damage because it contained the blast. None of the nearby windows in the hotel were even damaged because Trump has the best glass, the best. According to the KOAA, law enforcement officers wearing tactical gear and armored vehicles arrived in Colorado Springs to check his property. Neighbors were escorted away from the complex. Police have assured the public they do not suspect there's any ongoing threat to that community. Hours before the attack, Jabbar in New Orleans drove another electric vehicle, which was a Ford, killed 14 pedestrians, and then he died. Here's the back of the truck from a Special Forces person. I don't know what all that is. Looks like we've got like 4 or 5 cans of lighter fluid dumped around. maybe a gas, like how many gallons is that? Maybe like a 5, maybe in a big, like, is that a big drum? I don't know, but it's interesting how it's kind of slopped together back there. And then there must have clearly also been fireworks. Is that what these were? These were little bottle rocket exploding type things. Police have released a series of photographs. Here's what it is. And you may have seen these from other vehicle fires, these giant tarps. When the electric vehicles go on, it's like lithium, whatever, explosions from the battery packs. So they just come dump that on it and it snuffs it out versus blasting it with a bunch of water. Now, Turo is a big app. It's kind of like Airbnb. Like, it's the Airbnb for cars. So it's not unusual to think that they both may have used it. It's like, if you got a vacation rental, you're probably going to use Airbnb or VRBO. It's like kind of one of the two. So that connection alone is not strange. But the fact that they're both renting vehicles and that they're both EVs, plus the fact that they both are Turo and they happen on the same day, that is a little strange. Police revealed on Wednesday they're currently investigating links, haven't ruled anything out. Kevin McHale says, do I think it's a coincidence? Well, I don't know, but we're looking into it. A spokesperson for Turo later issued a statement describing the company's heartbreak by the violence. We're actively partnering with law enforcement, but we don't believe that either renter involved in Las Vegas or New Orleans had a criminal background or anything that would have identified them as a security threat. Turo also added, we maintain commitment to working with law enforcement and more. That was the scene from inside the vehicle. Officials and officers have also considered that he may have chosen an Elon car. I think so. Yeah, it's a Tesla truck. By Wednesday, they knew it was a bomb in the back of the truck. Musk said that Tesla vehicles transmit their state of health continuously. Maybe they were able to check whether there was anything wrong prior to the explosion. He wrote in our post, Trump said, our country is a disaster. Local prosecutors have scum infiltrating our country, even though this guy was a citizen, both of them. Democrats should be ashamed of themselves, said others. The CIA must get involved now before it's too late. Trump said, make America great again. So this is the other individual, Jabbar, age 42, also U.S. Army, seen there, also got radicalized or something. FBI said officials they have originally said that they do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. Okay, this is what the Daily Mail still has. We're aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates, says Alethea. And then they threw her back harder than Senator Kennedy did. We didn't see her in the next press briefing. She's like, we're running down all of the associates. They're like, hey, ixnay on the associates, okay? Law enforcement officials in Texas searched a residence in Houston on Wednesday. Houston and Harris County are digging in. As of Wednesday night, no arrests been made elsewhere. FBI New Orleans and their field office is also conducting a number of court-authorized search warrants in various locations to see what else they can dig out. And they're opening up for the game. Jabbar was killed by police after he slammed his truck through pedestrians. They recovered a handgun and an AR-15. They're probing a theory that he rented a local property on Airbnb in St. Roch for his base in carrying out the attack. They got photographs, and the photographs are just horrific. Jabbar is also said to have made a series of videos. Multiple officials told CNN the recordings seemingly were made the night that he was driving, and the suspect is not visible in the videos. Wow. So the CNN videos, the recordings were made while driving at night, and you can't see the guy. Interesting. CNN reported that the recordings make reference to his divorce and that he planned on gathering his family to kill them, but then didn't. The suspect is also said to have talked about how he joined ISIS and spoke of dreams that he had about joining the group. There are no overt links between the two. And of course, we'll keep our eye on him. Now, this was a video that he made. This is the video of the guy. He was apparently like a realtor
with Blue Metal Properties and team lead at the Midas Group at Core Realty. I just want to say hello and let you know a little bit about me. So I'm born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, and now live in Houston. And I've been here all my life, with the exception of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist and IT specialist, where I learned the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch. So I've taken those skills and applied them to my career as a real estate agent, where I feel like what really sets me apart from other agents is my ability to be able to, one, be a fierce negotiator. So not only do I brilliantly market your property to make sure it gets sold as quickly as possible or gets leased as quickly as possible, but I'm also going to take every ounce of energy and putting it into negotiating for you and for your property to get the best deal that you can possibly get for it. So once we get to the closing table, all the I's are going to be dotted, all the T's are going to be crossed, everything's going to go off without a hitch, and that is my word that I'm giving to you as your real estate agent. So if that's the type of agent you're looking for, reach out to me. You see my phone number on the page.
What a strange thing. So the guy serves the country for 10 years, is a budding real estate person. He is a father of two, former college star, 37, and then just decides to go nuts and just decides to go kill 14 people and then die in an attack. So I don't know what happened or how that happened, but it is a very, very strange thing that is happening simultaneously now around the country. And so he was also, as we saw here from Bill Malugin over on Fox, as he was active special duty operations. He was on leave from Germany, serving the 10th Special Forces Group. And so the story there is strange. We also had Andy No, aka Andy NGO, who does great reporting, says, I looked into the background of this guy, Matthew Leibelsberger, the 37-year-old from Colorado Springs who drove a Turo-rented Tesla and blew it up at the hotel. He's also a U.S. Army veteran, just like the New Orleans ISIS terror suspect. His LinkedIn is no longer online, but there are ghost remnants of his background. Special Forces Intelligence Sergeant from, this is the guy in Las Vegas, Defense Analysis and Strategic Studies from Norwich University. Also said he served at the same military base as Jabbar. Now, we don't know what base that is. Nancy Mace is asking a question. Did they serve at the same time at the same military base? And there's a lot of people who serve at the same military base because I think there's, basic training and all these things are kind of at certain locations. Like there's an East Coast, West Coast, Mid Coast, Central. So you go to certain locations. So it depends on what, are they working on special operations together, or are they doing basic training together? What is the specific details on that? I think that's what Nancy Mace is also hinting at. Were they there together? Are there any connections between the two? What specific military base also? Because we know Jabbar, I think, went to Bragg, but what about Leibelsberger? They live near Bragg, but did he attend Bragg? So lots of questions. So interesting there in Las Vegas. We're waiting for a press briefing to happen. And here is what the cables are saying today. We've got
Jabbar declared his support for the terrorist group on social media.
Bourbon Street conversations.
But our officers were the ones who stopped this terrorist. I'm so proud of them. They are truly men and women of courage.
Brianna, we also want to show you a video from where they did a second line down the street, and they did sort of a memorial. The mayor and the superintendent walked down the street with people from the clergy community in this city, as we show you this video, and they took 14 yellow roses and placed it at different spots because they wanted to make sure that before they open this street, they show a lot of reverence to the victims here. And on top of all that, I want to show you the barrier they now put in place. There's a barrier that's been erected, and not only do they do that, they block the sidewalk, but listen to the chief talk about that barrier that's now there to make sure no trucks or cars go down this road.
So what we're doing right now is we're hardening the target, and that's the term we use, meaning that we are going to make it where any penetration would be almost next to impossible to get here. So that's what you're seeing here. We're bringing in heavier equipment, and we are also putting what are called archers on the sidewalk, if you can see that. And that will give protection for anyone who would, again, try to access via the sidewalk.
So what we know for a fact is the NFL's top security person was also here. They've gone over the plan for the Super Bowl as well. We know this roadway is going to open up in a short time. But what we're told is the new barriers will also be put in place sometime soon. But when you look down the road here, you can see they've already made a significant change. And again, hundreds of officers will be surged into this area over the next few hours. Brianna?
All right. Seems like it is upon us there. Ryan Young, thank you for that. With us.
All right, so we're going to keep our eye on what's happening on the cables because I'm curious to see if we're going to have a Las Vegas press briefing today. But we've got some other breaking news on the day, and I'm very excited to go through this one. It's fresh out of the oven. And so let's talk about what's happening here with the pipe bomber. A new report on the January 6th pipe bomber released by the Committee on House Administration. You know, Chairman Loudermilk and Thomas Massie dropping this fresh in the new year, January 2nd, right out of the oven, saying today the Committee on House Administration is releasing this new report examining the state of the investigation into the RNC and the DNC pipe bombs. While we've got other IEDs floating around New Orleans and other exploding bombs in the back of cyber trucks in front of Trump Hotel, we're still asking our question about that random J6 pipe bomber that they cannot find. All of his cell phone data was scrambled and you can't recover it. It's one of the weirdest things that Stephen D'Antonio ever experienced as a special agent there in DC. Weird how that happens. Missing records. But here is the report. They've got some takeaways for us. We know we've been waiting for this for quite some time, and here it is finally. The interim staff report on the investigation into the pipe bombs, published January 2nd, 2025. Happy New Year. Says, here's the executive summary from the Republicans. On January 6, 2021, almost 4 years ago to the day, federal law enforcement discovered 2 pipe bombs near the headquarters at the RNC and the DNC. Now, the discovery of both pipe bombs, which had been laying outside for more than 16 hours, occurred within minutes of Congress's vote to certify the election. What a weird coincidence. They're out there floating around for 16 hours and then boom, discovered conveniently. And resulted in law enforcement diverting considerable resources away from the Capitol so that it could be raided and ransacked by people like Ray Epps. Now, as a result, while law enforcement responded to pipe bombs, protesters breached security perimeters and then suddenly entered the building. How convenient. According to the FBI, on January 5th, an unknown suspect carrying a backpack and wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt, a mask, gloves, glasses, and a pair of Nike Air Max Speed Turf sneakers, they got those, planted the pipe bombs. Both pipe bombs, according to the FBI, were viable explosives. They said that could have detonated, causing innocent bystanders to be seriously injured or killed. A serious and largely overlooked security failure on J6 was the delayed discovery of the pipe bombs. Why didn't they find those when they were doing their sweeps? And the chaotic response of federal law enforcement after their discovery. Throughout the afternoon of J6, federal law enforcement struggled to secure and maintain a perimeter around the bombs. Couldn't even protect that. Remember, Kamala was walking right by it, resulting in pedestrian and vehicular traffic walking by the bombs. On multiple occasions, federal law enforcement repeatedly identified breaches of the perimeters around the pipe bombs, but couldn't even control it. There was a complete breakdown in command and control. Now, we're 4 years later, federal law enforcement has yet to identify the individual. Can't find him. Remains one of the most unanswered questions from the day. In the early weeks of the investigation, the FBI took significant steps to identify multiple people of interest, issuing search warrants, reviewing hours of security footage, and analyzing the bombs. Now, despite the threat that the bombs pose to Congress and everybody else, including diverting resources away from the Capitol that you were supposed to be protecting, the federal law enforcement has refused to give us updates. They diverted from our security. We got overrun, and they won't even answer questions about it. Following January 6th, various congressional committees, inspectors general, and everybody, they conducted investigations. But however, until now, no committee has reviewed the failures of the pipe bomb or law enforcement's investigation into the suspect and their failures to find the guy. Here's what we know. In June, Congress created the fake January 6th committee. They had rules which were identifying a bunch of things. And in fact, what they did in their little fake report, that's 845 pages, their giant book report that Liz Cheney wrote, it referenced the pipe bombs 5 times only in passing because they know who did it and it was probably them. When establishing the J6 committee, Congress mandated that they come to a conclusion and that the records would be transferred after the committee was over. However, a thorough review of almost 3 terabytes of data shockingly shows there's few results about the pipe bomb at all. They didn't even care. This shows how they failed to thoroughly investigate the pipe bomb entirely. And so now we're here. The purpose of these investigations is to investigate your failures. And we've done a lot of work on this. We've got 90,000 documents, 3 terabytes of digital data. The goal of our investigation was to determine how this happened. The inquiry revealed a series of security failures in response to the pipe bombs. And based on a thorough review of everything we've looked at, CCTV footage, radio transcripts and transmissions, which is interesting that the Capitol Police saved those because we know the Secret Service does not. They shred those. And documents obtained as part of the investigation, we now determine the following: that law enforcement failed to identify one of the devices during a routine security sweep, walked right by it, idiots, failed to properly secure or maintain a perimeter around the pipe bombs after they found them and had orders to protect them. Pedestrians and vehicles crossed within feet of the bombs. They allowed the motorcade of the House of Representatives to drive through an active bomb scene. They allowed commuter trains to cross a bridge next to the DNC, placing civilians next to the bombs. They transmitted inaccurate information over the radios, resulting in civilians being close. The review of this investigation into the suspect is also horrific. It revealed the following: there is conflicting information as to whether the FBI actually got corrupted cellular data. Let's fast forward. They didn't. Corrupted data? We've gone through this before, and we've had multiple people in our community say that's ridiculous. They're in the data business. They don't get corrupted data. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, they are literally in the data business. They don't have corrupted records they bill for data. It's all duplicated and backed up. A former senior FBI official testified that the major cell carrier companies provided corrupted cell data to the FBI. We couldn't access it, and suggested that the corrupted data may have had the identity of the bomber there. However, in responses to letters, the major cell carriers said, no, we didn't provide corrupted data to the FBI. It's ridiculous. The FBI never notified them of any issues at all accessing the cellular data. The FBI is filled with liars, and Stephen D'Antuono and this whole corrupted thing is total lies. The FBI identified multiple persons of interest during the initial weeks and months of the investigation. At first, there was a person of interest who searched the term pipe bomb DC online prior to law enforcement's discovery of their pipe bomb, but after their placement. So somebody was checking to see, did anybody find a pipe bomb in DC yet? See how granular they can get there? Somebody searched pipe bomb DC. Nobody found the bombs yet. How did the person know about the bomb? Before the discovery, but after they were placed. So they timed it. Man, they nailed the dude. A person of interest, that is like a hot lead right there. A person of interest who on the morning of January 5th took photographs of the area behind the RNC where one of the bombs would later be planted. Who's that person? Scoping out the scene. Who could that be? A vehicle of interest carrying a passenger, matching the description of the suspect that drove past the RNC minutes after the suspect planted the pipe bombs. And another person of interest who owned a pair of Nike Air Max Speed Turf sneakers who worked in the area of the crime. They found the shoes. I'm like, oh, dang it. It's Liz Cheney. Shoot, it was her. Hey, 5 persons of interest or potential targets whose cellular data indicated the movements on January 5th may have matched the movements of the suspect. So gobs of data, gobs. Now, despite its initial efforts, the FBI is yet to identify the suspect and has refused to give us any information about these leads, because it's them. The DOJ has claimed that the FBI has pursued its investigations of Americans with unprecedented speed and scale. In fact, the department has charged more than 1,500 people in 50 states. Now, in contrast, after more than 1,400 days since the 2 pipe bombs were found, the FBI has made no arrests at all, has charged no individuals with planting the bombs. No, of course not, because they'd rather go raid grandmas. Since its initial progress in the early weeks and months, there has been little meaningful progress on the apprehension of the pipe bomber, because they don't care, because they know who it is. This report presents the information known to the subcommittee, saying the pipe bombs outside played a role in diverting resources from the Capitol. They placed many people in harm's way, but 4 years later, no details about what happened, because our intelligence agencies have no agency and they have no intelligence. Here is the table of contents, and let's zoom in on this in further detail. On J6, we know a lot of people were there, 25 to 30,000 people. Capitol Police knew it. 12 p.m., Trump spoke. 12:30, demonstrators moving towards the Capitol. At 12 p.m., Carolyn Younger, a resident of the Capitol Hill neighborhood, exited her residence to use the laundry room located in the alleyway behind the RNC and the Capitol Hill Club. Here's the location: U.S. Capitol, RNC headquarters, DNC headquarters. RNC's here in blue, DNC there in blue. Now, by the DNC, there was the pipe bomb. Remember what that looked like? Seen right there by the bench. And pretty obvious. I mean, that is like as obvious as you could get it. And I don't know if somebody pulled that out a little bit. That's like, hey, this is a pipe bomb. Hello. The only thing you could do to make that more observant would be to put like flashing LED lights on there that says like with a countdown timer detonation, you know. That'd be even more sophisticated. More obvious. Let me just drop this right here by the bench. Like, can't you tuck it behind the bushes? Like, put it behind the bushes or something, man. Like, if you really just tuck it, there's branches right there. Just pick a branch up. Put it over it. Unless they wanted somebody to see it, you know. Here's another scene of this one. Here's this hidden pipe bomb. This one's over at the RNC. Looks like somebody just tucked it right back there by a trash can and a rat motel. Tucked over there right by the RNC. Not exactly near it, though. See, that's where it was. Not exactly near the building. Like you'd think maybe it should be like right here or something. But they just kind of wanted somebody to see it and cause a ruckus and be a diversionary excuse so that they could go over there. And then the Capitol would be wide open and they'd have plausible deniability for why that wasn't secure. So then at 12:38, when she returned to receive her laundry, Younger discovered a pipe bomb lying next to a dumpster behind the Capitol Hill Club. The CCTV footage then captured her running. She's like, holy crap, that's a pipe bomb. Because even she can figure it out. Is she an FBI agent? No, she's just a nice resident. What's up, Carlin? Great job identifying a pipe bomb. Says U.S. Capitol Police CCTV footage then captured her running. She was trying to notify someone. At 12:42, Younger and an RNC security guard then exited the alleyway. She's like, hey, come look at this. Then the security guard approached the Capitol Hill officer stationed at the intersection of 1st Street and C Street, showed the officer a bomb. Capitol says, oh, man, calls into dispatch. Hey, man, I got this security guard. Says, I had the head of security of a Republican club come up to me, and he has what it appears to be an explosive in the back of the building. Can you have some units respond? Capitol Police responded. They began blocking off the surrounding streets. Then shortly after the discovery of the bomb, 3 Capitol Police CSU people, each unit comprised of 2 plainclothes officers deployed to the surrounding areas. Or like, anything else around here? One of these head units went towards the DNC. Then at 1:05, one of the Capitol Police counter surveillance units identified an explosive next to the bench that we just saw the photo of, and notified DC and Secret Service, who were sitting inside nearby vehicles. 2 minutes later, one of the CSU officers from the Capitol Police noticed and notified dispatch of a bomb at the DNC, calling in. 10100 at the DNC as well. Similar device that was found at the RNC as well, advising units on scene what's going on. Meanwhile, additional Capitol Police units began to respond to the DNC. Secret Service agents and Metro Police agents exited their vehicles and began looking for this thing. Around the time, the Capitol Police began evacuating the Cannon office building in the House and the James Madison Library of Congress building, two buildings near the DNC. So the office building, not the Capitol building, but the offices were being evacuated. Shortly thereafter, after the discovery of the RNC bomb, demonstrators breached the first set of security building barriers surrounding the Capitol. At 2:53, less than 10 minutes after the Capitol Police responded to the RNC, demonstrators were gathering near the Capitol and their reflecting pool. So it's all happening in parallel, simultaneously. After breaching the outer perimeter, demonstrators began to rush to the west front lawn, got closer to the Capitol building, before the Capitol Police and the Metro PD briefly stopped the crowd at the west front to the Capitol. So here's where the march is taking place. Supporters are gathering over here on the east side. And they tell us around the same time that the joint session convened, Capitol officers responding to the pipe bombs discovered a red pickup truck. There were also 11 Molotov cocktails there, several loaded firearms, and more in a vehicle parked outside the RNC. The officer said, I've got a suspicious vehicle outside Capitol Hill Club. We searched the vehicle with a dog. No indications. However, it's definitely suspicious. Possible, inaudible, under the vehicle and their shell casings. Law enforcement responded, investigated the vehicle. They declared a scene then at 1:50 at the Capitol a riot. Then they ordered a lockdown. And at 2:12, the first demonstrators entered the building. So then as they entered the building, Capitol Police responded to both bomb scenes. The Capitol Police resources evacuated nearby buildings, attempted to secure perimeters around the RNC and DNC. They said both explosives are safe. They then declared the DNC scene clear 4:20, RNC at 6:30. Congress reconvened later around 9 p.m. They certified the results that night. And they said, the greatest interference with election. Okay, whatever. It was like 4.5 hours. You were back that same night. While law enforcement has not identified the suspect for the bombs, who planted the bombs, they were critical on that day. Whether intended or not, they created diversions. They forced law enforcement away from the Capitol. In fact, on February 23rd, in testimony before the Senate, Capitol Hill Chief of Police Stephen Sund, who wrote a great book called Courage Under Fire, stated that Capitol Police diverted extensive resources and suggested, Capitol Hill Chief of Police Stephen Sund suggested pipe bombs were part of a coordinated plan related to the attack on the Capitol. Even he can see it. It's obvious. Chief Sund noted that the pipe bombs were planted right off the edge at the perimeter and likely to draw resources away from the Capitol. He further described the significant resources that were deployed. In response, he said they all went out to look for the pipe bomb. Chief Sund also confirmed they drew resources away. So did Michael Bolton, Inspector General. In 2021, in testimony, he reported that there was only one team to cover the entire Capitol complex. Look at that. It's like out of a movie. In fact, it's like out of Die Hard. Remember that? Remember when they put that bomb in that school and then they left open the Federal Reserve? It's kind of what happened here. As a result, U.S. Capitol, there's pipe bombs over at the RNC building. So we'll just go take over Congress. Great job. One team to cover the entire complex? Gosh. As a result, the Inspector General said that the suspect intended for the pipe bombs to be a diversion, and plainly speaking, it worked. They bought it. Just like Hans Gruber said. The subcommittee now went through a lot of this. As part of their investigation, they were digging through this. Jim Jordan sent a letter to FBI about this on January 17th. He scoffed at it. On April 26th, Thomas Massey asked questions about the ATF. Chairman Loudermilk on April 27th was talking to Chief Manger. Said, can you please give us some information? Then on 24th, Jordan and Biggs sent a letter to FBI Director Chris Wray. Loudermilk sent another letter. Wanted every CCTV camera. Jordan, Loudermilk, and Biggs wanted all the FBI reports. They wanted a briefing. But guess what? The FBI has failed to provide any responsive documents at all. In fact, Assistant Director Matthew Fodder briefed the committee on the pipe bomb investigation, but he failed to satisfy even the committee's most basic questions and needs. They just show up. They show up and they have a PowerPoint slide. Let me show you what a pipe bomb is. Here are the basics of a pipe bomb. Well, the first thing you need, Congress people, in order to have a pipe bomb is a pipe. There are many types of pipes. Sometimes you can have plastic pipes and metallic pipes. Some are PVC, some are iron. Some can be used for, and what? What? Shut up. Who did it? And they're like, well, before we can give you any more information on that, let's talk about explosives. What does an explosion mean? All right, gosh! On July 12th, Rep. Massey questioned FBI Director Wray, and he didn't care. Then on February 1st, did another conversation with Stephen Dettelbeck. He didn't care. Then Chairman Loudermilk sent a national letter to the National Democratic Committee saying, can we please have your footage from there? They said no. Then there was another one. Letter to the Chief of Police, Pamela Smith. They wanted street camera footage from the RNC and the DNC. She said, no, you can't have any street camera footage, refusing to provide it. No, you don't have it. Then Chairman Loudermilk sent another one to law enforcement. And this one, he sent, Chief Manger did produce some of those materials, which is good. Then Loudermilk sent a letter to Secret Service. Initially, they failed to provide the documents, but maybe they have. Then Massey questioned Steve Dettelbeck. Then on May 29th, okay, they did a lot of work. They've worked their butts off to get this information, and we appreciate it. So they tell us, in summary, they failed to find and to properly respond to the pipe bomb. So now we're getting into the meat and potatoes here. On January 6th, Kamala was allowed to pass within feet of the pipe bomb. On the morning of J6, after an unidentified suspect planted the bombs, Kamala went waddling by. During a security sweep, the Secret Service failed to discover the bomb, located 20 feet away from the garage, and Harris's motorcade, she was the incoming vice president-elect, drove within feet of the bomb. Look at that. That's where Kamala and her Secret Service team were walking. And this is the bomb. It's a composite image, right? It's two different screenshots. They mashed together. Feet away. Prior to Harris's arrival, at least 10 Secret Service agents came within walking distance and then never discovered the device. They're like, what is that, a stove timer? He's like, yeah, I think it's a stove timer. My wife has one of those when she's cooking us meals. She turns it to 20 minutes. Why is it attached to a pipe, though? I don't know. Maybe it's for irrigation? Yeah, this looks like these plants are well watered, so it's probably just irrigation. Great job, FBI and Secret Service. At approximately 8:37, an apparent Secret Service agent exited the door 20 feet away from the bomb. He's looking all over the place like, well, yeah, it's probably a drip system. At 9:11, another Secret Service agent, again, walked within feet of it. It's more irrigation. I wonder if he turned it on. Or like a hot tub timer, you know? At approximately 10:50, an apparent Secret Service agent also looked south. Another one. 2 minutes later, another one. At 11:04, another one. Then they exited the building and they walked by it right again. Then at 11:25, Harris and her motorcade drove directly by the bomb, 20 feet from her motorcade as it entered the garage. There's Kamala pulling in right there. There's the pipe bomb. Kamala was in the building for over an hour before then, so she walks in, then some Capitol Police officer in plain clothes, not even a Secret Service dude, discovers the device. He says, hey, hello, there's a bomb out here. Then they evacuated her from the building to her residence. Probably pulled her out the other side, I would imagine. She did not return to the joint session. She was supposed to go back to the Capitol, but did not return. In July, the Inspector General released a report that examined their actions on this. They found that the K-9 teams didn't find it. The officer responsible for the sweep informed them that the sweep did not include the bushes. We checked everything except the bushes because bushes are generally safe, I guess. The Office of Inspector General also determined that they did not employ explosion detective capabilities And so they didn't do a good job. So they were even incompetent back then. They also know that they failed to secure and maintain a perimeter around the bombs once they actually found them. At one point, they even drove Pelosi within feet of the bombs. And I think the issue is, did they know the bombs were there? Were they concerned about the bombs? Here's another conversation. Like, well, those are our bombs. We're not worried. Oh, the pipe bombs? Yeah, no, Liz told me she put those out there last night. According to the FBI, standard procedure is to maintain a perimeter as follows. If it's a pipe bomb, mandatory evacuation is 70 feet if it's a pipe bomb, which is what we're talking about now. Suicide bomber, you're going to want to bump that back to 110 feet. If it's in a briefcase, you got to be 150 away from it. Okay, like at least mandatory. If it's a semi-trailer, you better be 1,500 feet away. All right, just so you know. Preferred evacuation distance, though, to be ultra safe, 1,200 feet if it's a pipe bomb. So that's probably what you want your House Speaker to be at least. Now, furthermore, they said that 300 feet is a good distance away. That didn't happen here. We're talking like 20 feet away from the bomb. Despite awareness of this device, law enforcement failed to stop pedestrians and other things. I think there were kids walking by. Here's a civilian walking by. 109, a group of civilians walked right by. Officer says, oh, come on down, just don't jaywalk. 1 minute later, another group of civilians. Are these kids? Look at all these people walking by the pipe bomb right there. Civilians. Secret Service standing here. They all know there's a pipe bomb there. They're not doing anything. 7 minutes after the discovery of a bomb, an apparent civilian vehicle drove past the DNC. Officer stopped the vehicle, but says just drive by there slowly in case it explodes. That way you'll get more shrapnel. 1 minute later, they said, we're too close to the bomb. You guys better expand the perimeter. At 1:14, another civilian walked along within mere feet of the bomb. Look at this dude. He walked past the device. Law enforcement standing there. They're like, man, you want to go tell that guy that he's too close to the bomb? Like, no. Well, I'm not going to go over there and tell him. Well, somebody needs to tell him. Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to get close to the bomb to tell him there's a bomb there. Should we shout at him? Well, no, because then we'll scare everybody. Maybe we should throw something at him. You have anything to throw? I could throw my gun. No, you can't throw your gun because that might hurt him. Okay, well, maybe he's just walking away. And he finally just walks away and they just move on with their lives. At approximately 1:15, the Capitol Police officer advised over the radio, stop all traffic driving by the bomb, you idiots. We have vehicles driving right past this package and coming up. We need to make sure officers are posted up here right now. Despite this order, vehicular and pedestrian traffic continue to enter. They're like, I'm not getting close to that thing. Go put up a barricade. No way, man. I'm not getting out of here. Are you kidding me? You go put up the barricade. No, you. Back and forth. At 1:18, an individual then exited the door at the DNC garage. The door is directly behind the bush where the pipe bomb was located and leads to the pedestrian walkway. Somebody else walks by. Hey, someone says, hey, that dude should not be exiting the garage area. He's like, just a little January 6th. Unclear why the area was not cleared for more than 13 minutes. This guy's walking by. However, confusion regarding the perimeter and the traffic persisted. The Capitol Police provided inaccurate evacuation directions. So that diverted and caused more civilians exiting the DNC to go near the bomb. He's like, no, definitely use the west exit. They're all coming out the west exit right past the bomb. It's insane. Here's police. Here's another civilian. Nearly 20 minutes after the discovery of the bomb, Capitol Police says, hey, we still got people coming out of the DNC walking towards the device. Send them out the back door. In response, the dispatcher instructed the units to direct civilians exiting the DNC to go in the correct direction. Hello. The dispatcher, however, did not repeat the specific directions or any other instructions. Then at 1:25, another Capitol Hill officer, noticeably frustrated with the failure of these idiots to secure the scene, implored the officers to contact DNC, tell them stop walking by the bomb. He calls over the radio. Once again, for the love of God, call the DNC security. Tell them, evacuate the west end of the building to the east end, okay? Or evacuate from Ivy East to New Jersey Avenue South. I also need the Fairchild building restricted from pedestrians leaving, and I need those units on watch on South Capitol and E Street to clear out 1 block south. They're all like, holy crap, I have no idea what that dude just said to me. Did you hear what he said? East and north of something. Should we do anything? No, I think they got it. In the time span between that radio and 1:40, 6 law enforcement officials drove directly in front of the bomb. They're like, well, I think we should go that way. What did he say? He said we have to go west. Are you sure? I think he said go east. No, we're definitely going west. Okay, drive by. Pipe bombs right there. All right, a U.S. Capitol officer in a frustrated voice repeated once again, guys, stop driving by the bombs. Stop vehicles. The officer stated, this is the last time I'm going to ask this request. My gosh. We need the unit in front of the Fairchild building at the South Capitol and E to go 1 block south, okay? They are in line of sight of this package. Additionally, whoever is in that K9 vehicle parked on the east curb of the South Capitol, you need to move ASAP, dummies. No more vehicles need to be responding north on South Capitol past the package. Thank you. Move. Gosh. Police vehicle drives right by it. He's like, wait, should I move over here? Right here? This is a good spot. Park right here. This is where he said to stop. He's like, yeah. They're having a hard time. So you can see here's another U.S. Capitol Police vehicle. He's like, oh, move by the bomb. Oh, get closer to the bomb. Here's this other cop car. He's like, oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, I see it. I'll park right here. Here's another one, Metro PD. He's like, oh, perfect. I love pipe bombs. That's great. Let me go take a look. You want me to go look at it? Yeah, I'll get close. Then the bomb squad truck shows up, and he drives right by the bomb squad's like, where is this place? I thought they sent directions. It's saying it's over here. I don't know. So 2 minutes later, at 1:43, then the Capitol Police deployed its bomb robot from the incident command post. Maybe this thing can help. While the bomb robot engaged with the device in an attempt to transport it to the street for a controlled disruption, law enforcement continued to allow cars to pass on the street directly in front of the bomb robot and the pipe bomb outside of the DNC. All right. Could you imagine this, man? You're like taking your kids to school. Mommy, what is that? I don't know, Johnny. I think that might be a bomb robot, but certainly that's not true. So driving through, although officers were stationed along the security perimeter, initially approached the car to speak to the driver, officers allowed the driver to continue in front of the DNC and the pipe bomb. Like, no, you're good. It's just a pipe bomb. It won't blast your car. I mean, you might get some shrapnel in your face, whatever, but you're not going to die. So yeah, you're fine. Go through. 2 minutes later, an ambulance passed the pipe bomb, came within mere feet. They're like, well, this guy's basically already dead anyway, so who cares? So just drive through. What's fine? Going around is such a nightmare. Here comes the ambulance. It's car after car. It's like a comedy routine. It's amazing. Shortly after this, at approximately 1:54, nearly 50 minutes after they discovered this, a Capitol Hill police officer again is losing his freaking mind. He directed units. You guys have to stop vehicles. They're not allowed to drive past the pipe bomb. Remind the units on East Street and the southwest sector, any vehicles they let pass them have to go southbound, okay? We just had one go north. We can't have that happen. No vehicles heading north, he says. All vehicles coming out of East Street, southwest, have to head south at this time. Now, despite the radio transmissions, 1 minute later, 2 law enforcement vehicles drove past the pipe bomb while the bomb robot prepared to transport the pipe bomb to the street to blow it up. Incredible. MPD vehicles driving right by. Here's the pipe bomb and the bomb robot. At 1:58, the bomb's robot transported the device from the walkway for a controlled demo. At 2:01, while the bomb robot had the pipe bomb in the middle of the street, law enforcement permitted another vehicle to drive where the bomb was about to explode. As the vehicle drove past the DNC, a Capitol officer mistakenly announced over the radio. Some Capitol Hill officer says, At the RNC, fire in the hole, fire in the hole, fire in the hole. When the officer likely meant the DNC, so at the wrong building. Everybody at the RNC is like, what? RNC's blowing up? Where? The term fire in the hole is announced to notify law enforcement that they're going to blow up a package. And a possible inadvertent detonation of the device is imminent. The notification provides law enforcement with an opportunity to ensure the blast zone is free of any pedestrians. Less than a minute later, at 2:02, then another Capitol Hill officer says vehicles need to stop driving by the package on Canal in Washington. Units need to stop vehicles. Stop driving by the package. Stop it. At approximately 2:04, the officer initially who called fire in the hole for the RNC corrected her mistake. She said, a hold on the RNC. What I meant is fire in the hole at the DNC. Oops. Fire in the hole at the DNC. Oops. A dispatcher then repeated the advisement. Says, yeah, it's actually, she was wrong. It's at the DNC. Calling fire in the hole at the wrong scene is particularly dangerous because it places units at the wrong scene on notice that there's a bomb about to go off. Shortly after she corrected her mistake, another Capitol Hill officer directed units once again, stop all vehicles for the love of, he's like, all right, sir, I need a sergeant to respond to East Street Southwest. I cannot have any more vehicles responding northbound, nor pedestrians. I need everyone to clear out from this area. We will be disrupting this device here momentarily. I need it clear, and I need a sergeant on the scene to tell me when it's clear. At 2:05, after the Capitol Police officer notified units that the bomb squad would be disrupting this device, another police car drove north, right past the pipe bomb. And this guy's like, all right, that's it. I'm just going to go blow myself up. I've had enough. I'll just go take care of this bomb. He's just going to go end it. Just go blow himself into oblivion. I can't take this anymore. 2 minutes later, another civilian on a scooter approaches the pipe bomb. The person made it within several yards of the pipe bomb, well within the blast zone, well within the device. They're sitting there. Should we stop that kid on the scooter? No. He'll go by fast. Immediately after this, the Capitol Police, notably frustrated once again, transmitted this. She transmitted, says, we keep having vehicles and pedestrians walking on Washington Street. We please need everyone to use vigilance, okay? Stop all traffic at this time. All units, said another dispatcher, all units, okay? You need to stop pedestrian vehicles. They're going by the package, for crying out loud. All units on Washington and East Street, stop all traffic at this time. Please keep them from the bomb. Like, I don't know how many times this is. 1 minute later, a U.S. Capitol Police lieutenant called the DNC to confirm employees had evacuated. A DNC employee advised the evacuation's ongoing. And then at 2:11, another officer called fire in the hole at DNC. Less than a minute later, the robot engaged in the first of two controlled disruptions of the pipe bomb. Now, the subcommittee has obtained no record indicating the Capitol Police received a final notification from the DNC that the evacuation was complete. So they blew it up, even though the building was still presumably occupied, hadn't been completed yet. So they were like, that's good enough. At 2:26, the same white four-door sedan that drove past the pipe bomb at 1:51 could be seen returning and turning left as the driver approaches the yellow police tape. The driver can be seen lifting the police tape over the vehicle, proceeding south and once again passing the pipe bomb. So there was a police line. This guy's like, I'm not waiting. I'm not going around. Like, I have to go through here. So walks out, lifts up the perimeter, drives right through. Meanwhile, a Capitol Police officer again directed, said a vehicle was driving past the bomb. I need units to maintain. We have a vehicle coming south. We're going to be disrupting the package. Stop letting people drive by. All units maintain your perimeter. Stay out of eye contact with the robot and maintain your perimeter. Now, despite this, again, another Capitol Police officer at 2:30 drove north on the street while the robot was engaged. Look, he drives right by it, right there. It's like totally incompetent. It's incredible. How many times on the radio? Like, basically everybody should be fired, right? If you got it. Did you hear the radio? Yeah. Did you hear it 5 times? Yeah. Why'd you drive by? I don't know. You're fired. Thanks. In addition to permitting law enforcement vehicles to contaminate the scene, law enforcement also permitted 2 individuals to walk into the crime scene as they were processing and collecting the evidence. Interesting. Civilian walks right by the bomb robot. He's like, what the hell is that thing? That's crazy. What is that? It's probably me. Honestly, it's probably me. What is that thing? It's pretty cool. Is that an explosive? Oh, it's a bomb robot. It's probably not going to explode. That's why they're here. Let me watch this. Let me record it. Put it on YouTube. You guys gotta check this out. I don't know what the hell is it. Hey, so I could totally envision that. I'd walk right up to, anyways. But throughout the afternoon, federal law enforcement failed to secure and maintain a safety perimeter. In total, more than 40 vehicles and 10 pedestrians breached the perimeter. The inability to prevent this shows that they're totally incompetent. Now, they also failed to maintain a perimeter around the RNC. So it's going to be the same story at the RNC. We'll fast forward through this. Same thing here. Police tape, civilians walking right on through it. Hey, guys, I got people walking down the Republican side. Can you please stop them? More civilians just walking on down. It's going to be the same thing in a new location. Here you've got now Speaker Pelosi drives right by it. Speaker Pelosi goes down this street, right past the DNC pipe bomb, drives right by it. As it approached the DNC, Pelosi's motorcade stopped at the intersection where they were cordoning her off, drives right through it. In footage obtained, Speaker Pelosi, that was filmed by her daughter, U.S. Capitol Police security detail can be heard on video asking the officers if the street was blocked all the way off. Shortly after this, they allowed her motorcade to drive right past the pipe bomb. And if that bomb would have gone off, and if it would have caused some damage to Pelosi or to Kamala, that would have elevated this whole thing to a whole nother ballgame, right? As Speaker Pelosi's motorcade approached, Capitol Hill officer directed the units to maintain the perimeter and advised that they would be disrupting the bomb shortly. Please maintain your perimeter. But Pelosi drove right through it. Federal law enforcement had allowed 15 vehicles before hers to go through, which was obviously unsafe. Federal law enforcement failed to prevent commuter trains also. So commuter trains are driving through. They're like, well, the trains are going by. You see right there. Here's a pipe bomb. There's that commuter train, bunch of people on board. That's within the perimeter, no doubt. Whether it would have been big enough to do damage, who knows? But wouldn't you stop those or think about it? They asked questions about it. The perimeter was frequently breached. They failed to ensure adequate resources back at the Capitol. While the security perimeter around the DNC and RNC was frequently breached, they also prevented the Capitol Police from getting 400 bike racks early that afternoon, which would have been protective barriers around the Capitol. The need for the bike racks was acute because there was an inexplicable last-minute demand on January 5th at 9:10 p.m. to take the absolutely illogical step of removing 500 bike racks from around the Capitol. The removal at 9:10 on January 5th, who made this decision, to remove 500 bike racks on the evening of January 5th may have obscured the line between what was deemed public and restricted space. Then Chief Security Officer for the architect of the Capitol testified that removing the bike racks to a known event was so different than what we would normally do. Put those up. People can't run through those. They're giant metal barriers, and they look like bike racks. So 500 of them were taken away. It's so different than what we would normally do for a big event. Now, you said, madam, that there was something about this bike rack removal was strange, right? You said it was strange. You said you characterized this removal as a late night request. You were told that the reason for the change was due to the concern that demonstrators would be trapped on the two egg-shaped areas, and you said that this explanation did not track with past setups, including those used in November and December, and that the change didn't make sense from a security perspective. So what did you mean when you said that? She says, well, it was so different than what we would normally do. And I was so concerned that when I let Brett Blanton, the architect, know, because it was out of my norm of what we've done in the past, it was my opinion that it was different and laxer security than we had put up in place in previous events. Again, bike rack is normally used. The best use of it is just as directional mechanisms for crowd marking on where they can and cannot go. So it's a perimeter that says this is restricted area. Hasbury also explained that the critical timing of the discovery of the pipe bombs prevented them from putting the bike rack lines back up. So on January 6th, you're asked whether the team is ready to move 500 or 400 bike racks back. Are they able to do that? She says, well, so on the 6th, one of the numerous calls I received was from Robert Ford, Capitol Police Security Services, saying we need to get bike racks to the east front. They're being overrun. So I called my team first and said, hey, I'm going to send you traffic, but I need you to at least start the process. Have the contractor ready to move. Now, I can explain what happened, why I didn't get there. Our contractor loaded it up. Now, if you're familiar with the campus, my office is in Fairchild. They loaded up the bike rack. They were ready with the police escort to get it to the east front. That was when one of the exploded improvised devices was found. So that team could not get the bike rack because you had the larger issue at the DNC, so we couldn't put the bike racks out. So is it fair to say that an additional 400 bike racks, they were never put in place, right? Well, it was later that night. So it wasn't until later that night after they'd cleared the buildings, they put the bike racks back after J6 was over. So what did that do? Well, it severely exposed the Capitol. When they wanted to put 400 bike racks back up, the delivery attempt was thwarted. You're not allowed to put bike racks up, but you can drive through bomb zones. A question to Stephen D'Antuono, one of the FBI field office agents, assistant director at the FBI. Question to him. Are you familiar with the diversion thesis, that these were set up to be a diversion, Stephen? Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that, but if you watch, I've done a lot of media reports. I was trying to get the information out there. I will not speculate. I was not going to speculate on that. I think it's speculation at best when people say it's diversionary. Well, we'll never know until we find the person that actually did it or the persons that actually did it. So I can't speculate on that. Could it have been? Yeah, that's one theory. Obviously, it's one theory, but is it the only theory? I don't really know. Well, the Capitol Hill chief of police believes it was a diversion. He says, yeah, so Stephen Sund, chief of police, yes, I believe he wrote that in his book, but it's pure speculation. There's no intelligence. He says, look, I ran the investigation for 2 years until I stepped out. We don't know. We don't even know the gender at this point as to, well, we could speculate. There's a lot of people that are speculating as to the gender of the pipe bomber. Well, how confident are you that the individual depicted in the surveillance footage on J5 set both those pipe bombs in place? Steve says, well, so the video that we saw, I feel confident that by the video that we have, that person planted those. Do you think they intended for the bomb to go off the next day? Can't speculate on that, sir. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think it was technically possible for a kitchen timer? No. That has a 1 hour duration? No. To detonate a bomb 17 hours later? No, I don't. And I saw the same kitchen timer as you. I agree. I don't know when they were supposed to go off. Maybe they weren't supposed to go off. We don't know. We honestly don't know. And that's some of the pain. Now, as the FBI has failed to apprehend the suspect, the bomber's intent for placing the devices hasn't been definitively established. However, the effect of the pipe bombs is that it diverted attention away from the Capitol. And the refusal of the top FBI agents to acknowledge this is striking. The significance of these bombs to how the events unfolded cannot be overstated. The evidence suggests the pipe bomber diverted attention away at the exact time where they needed it most. Continuing, the delayed discovery of the pipe bomb marked serious security failures. After the U.S. Capitol Police declared the scenes cleared, the next phase began, the investigation. But we're 4 years later, and they've been unable to apprehend the so-called pipe bomber. And here's why. Following the discovery of the pipe bomb, they discovered an investigation into the person who planted the bombs. Early in its investigation, they had a suspect or a person of interest, but they have failed to identify this individual. Here's the background. On the night of J5, security cameras captured a suspect wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt, a white mask, black gloves, glasses, Nike Air Max Speed Turf sneakers, and an unidentified backpack. They say this dude, probably 5'7", Shoe length, 12.37 inches in length, translates to a male shoe size of 9.5 to 12. Or Liz Cheney was just wearing big boots. As of January 2023, the FBI and its law enforcement partners interviewed 1,000 people, 1,200 residents, 500 tips, 39,000 video files, 30 different data sets, including hardware stores, shoe vendors, cell carrier companies, 105 million data points. Despite all of this, can't find the dude. Still failed to arrest and prosecute the pipe bomber. Here's the photo that we've seen many times. Can't find the guy. You know what they should do? They should have that grandma McDonald's worker who identified Luigi Mangione. Has she taken a look at this photo yet? Because she found that dude at a McDonald's. Like, no problem at all. Crazy. And I wonder if she can look at that and find his eyes and just have her just, I don't know, go around to some Burger Kings there in Washington, D.C. The suspect repeatedly appeared on CCTV footage over and over again. A review of open source info and security camera footage says that he was constantly identified. He was first seen on camera, southeast part of the Capitol, near the power plant, then headed north towards Memorial Park on the way to the DNC, then headed west towards Spirit of Justice Park, then turned left, walking towards the DNC. After walking about halfway towards the DNC, stopped, turned around, briefly retraced their steps at the top of the street right there. Then, between 741 and 47, walked again south towards the DNC. This time, the suspect approached the west end of the building, sat on the park bench next to the DNC before continuing to walk around. And remember, the video footage that we saw of this suspect was like 2 or 3 frames per second. One of the most slow processing things you've ever seen. That's all you got from all your high-tech security footage? The suspect walked past the front entrance of the DNC and approached the rear of the building. The suspect then at 7:50 retraced their steps, again walking around the DNC, passing in front of the main entrance before sitting on a second bench next to the initial one. The suspect appears to remove an object from the backpack before placing what appears to be the device next to the bench, seen there. Then they retraced their steps back to the DNC, went back to the power plant, disappeared out of the CCTV camera footage, gone. Then at 8:09, seen back on the security camera footage, entered the alleyway. Now we're at the RNC. Approached the back of the RNC building, walked to the alley, and then around the club. The suspect re-entered the alley at 8:14, reapproached the rear, and likely planted the device at about 8:16 p.m. Then turned around, walked away from the RNC and the Capitol Hill last time this person was captured publicly on video. It's incredible. In Washington, D.C., they lost this dude with cameras. Remember how much effort they put into Luigi Mangione, and they were backtracing everything? They followed him and they found that he got on a bus or a subway or whatever. They didn't follow this guy back onto anything, on a subway, a bus, nothing. Gone. According to internal communications, he was last seen on 6th Street turning onto D Street, heading towards the Eastern Market when suddenly there's no more camera technology. Womp. After reviewing the suspect's movement and the manner in which the suspect carried their backpack, the FBI issued a press release saying they believe the suspect operated out of the area around Folger Park, a neighborhood near the RNC. In an earlier press release, they suggested he may have entered a vehicle or taken an item from a vehicle near Folger Street. Now, they tracked everything about this dude early. Early in the investigation, the FBI identified the shoes that he wore on J5. In an effort to identify the suspect, they issued 18 subpoenas to shoe vendors for individuals who purchased the sneaker model, Nike Air Max Speed Turf sneakers. The specific model. Okay, so they got an imprint of the sole and matched that, and then found 18 people who were wearing this shoe. Shoe vendors. By early 2021, not the people, the vendors, people who sell these shoes, they got dozens or received responses from all 18 of them. In a document obtained by the committee, the FBI noted that as of early Feb 21, the returns from 18 shoe vendor subpoenas resulted in a list of 307 individuals who who purchased the specific sneaker model, that one. During the list of individuals, it was not inclusive of all customers because Nike, which stopped selling the sneaker in 2018, did not maintain transaction records after more than 1 year. Okay, so the shoes are old. How recently were they purchased? The case team also received subpoena results from Redacted, identifying 400 transactions from other sneakers. The FBI subsequently compared these results in efforts to identify the lead. However, it remains unclear if they got anything. Now, most notably, they did identify a person of interest who owned a pair of sneakers and who worked in the area of the crime. In a response to that lead, the case team conducted a deep dive into this person of interest to establish independent corroboration of where he was on J5. The FBI requested and received multiple internet-based platforms and telecom service providers' details, but to date, it's unclear whether they've determined if this person of interest was involved in the pipe bomb, and presumably the answer is no. But you can't trust them. Now, while the suspect's shoes were distinct, the suspect's backpack, which was used to transport both devices, lacked any unique features. Despite this, the case team attempted to identify the make and model, and they contacted 18 possible manufacturers. In April, the case team got enhanced video of the backpack. By May, the FBI received no positive responses from any manufacturers. Remains unclear how successful they were in attempting to connect any persons of interest to the backpack, and that hasn't been fruitful. Now, they did initially identify multiple suspects of interest. Almost immediately, they identified multiple persons of interest whose actions on J5 raised questions. In documents retained by the committee, there was a POI 2, so not POI 1, who on the morning of J5, 9 hours before the explosive devices were planted, captured this person photographing a dumpster next to where the bomb would be planted. According to the FBI, after taking pictures, POI 2 walked around the Capitol complex, met with two other, quote, unidentified subjects, returned to the same alleyway behind the RNC, entered another station, metro station, and rode the metro down to Virginia. Notably, agents assigned to the case team determined POI 2 used Uber and a smart trip card, who was registered to another POI 3 who lived in Virginia. According to internal emails, the FBI's case team considered POI 2's movements highly suspicious and considered POI 2 a possible accomplice to the pipe bomber. Wow. In weeks following J6, FBI directed significant resources to investigating POI 2 and POI 3. So not the person in the footage. For example, the FBI, maybe the person in the footage. For example, the FBI placed both POI 1 and 3 under FISR, which is physical surveillance by the Washington field office. The FBI obtained grand jury subpoenas for their cell phones and issued preservation requests for all of their blank, blank, and blank accounts. With help from the Capitol Police, they also tracked the movement of the two unidentified subjects that they met with outside the Capitol. On J19, 2021, FBI agents also interviewed POI 2, ultimately eliminated that person as a person of interest. According to a summary of the interview, they learned that this person traveled to Washington to attend the activities, and they were photographing objects bearing numerals, including doors, dumpsters, and other objects, for a book. It's like writing a book. The review of the cell phone appears to corroborate the story. However, the interview summary does not elaborate further on how the case team verified the story. Following the interview, they ruled them both out. Then they identified another vehicle of interest that was driving past the RNC minutes after the device was planted. The vehicle of interest 1 is something driven by an individual wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt in the passenger seat as the vehicle drove by the RNC. Here's the gray hooded passenger. You see that person driving by. The route taken by the vehicle appeared to follow the Independence Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, except for a brief detour around the block of the RNC. This was just minutes after the suspect is last seen walking through the alleyway. So, perusing around these locations, you can see they give us a graphic detail. The FBI's team acquired footage from properties along these streets and the FBI submitted requests for license plate reader materials. As initial efforts failed to identify the vehicle, they served an emergency data request to blank, requesting the company identify 88 international mobile subscriber IDs associated with vehicles in the relevant cell tower data, 15-digit identifier, and according to the FBI, vehicle manufacturers install SIM cards in their vehicles. Did that have it? 3 days after submitting that, they got 84 vehicle VINs. The FBI then began cross-referencing those. In early 2021, they eliminated Vehicle 1 as a vehicle of interest. According to an internal document, the FBI determined the passenger was first captured within the vehicle at 8:17. Meanwhile, the suspect was seen 3/4 of a mile away. And although of this minor discrepancy, the accuracy is critically important given their suspicious behavior. So are they being accurate on that? Now, the FBI also identified the Googler. Unable to identify the suspect within the first month, they then got warrants, probably to Google, requesting identities of any user who searched specific search terms like RNC, DNC in the days leading up to the event. In March, the FBI identified one blank user that searched the term pipe bomb DC within the data received from February 21 search warrant. Here's a note. The case team is working with DC U.S. Attorney's Office to swear out a search warrant which requests the identities of anyone who searched specific terms, RNC, pipe bomb, etc., in the days leading up to this and the hours after placement, but before the discovery of the pipe bomb. So one person knows about it. Case team are reviewing results, saying that they're analyzing data to determine what to unmask. They anticipate having an affidavit, and they identified one blank user that searched pipe bomb DC in the data set. Who is that person? Why were they searching that? Following this discovery, the FBI prepared an affidavit seeking to unmask or identify the names and identifying information of 300 blank accounts contained within the data set. By mid-April, however, Blank had unmasked the identities of these accounts, and during its review, they identified 50 missing accounts. According to documents obtained by the committee, Blank did not provide the FBI with the identities of these accounts because they were not logged in for their searches. The accounts were linked by internet cookies. Internet cookies track certain types of information, and so they don't know where the FBI is on this one. Immediately after the start of the investigation, they identified multiple persons of interest through security camera footage. Their efforts utilized some of the most advanced tools, but they still can't find this person. Despite contrary statements, the FBI claims it could also not complete a geofence. During its investigation, they identified at least 5 different instances in which security camera footage revealed the suspect using a cell phone. As a result, they issued warrants to the cell phone companies. The warrants requested cellular and blank data associated with mobile devices around January 5th. And they've claimed that the data they got was corrupted. However, the providers dispute those claims. They say the FBI almost immediately issued a geofence warrant to try to identify the devices. Upon receiving the warrants and the return from the companies, they began identifying devices of interest. In the first 2 weeks, 11 devices of interest from the geofence gave names of owners. By late January, they also identified 5 devices that were present in the geofence for both the pipe bomb case and from the events at the Capitol. Now, after analyzing these 5 devices, the FBI determined that all 5 devices had Arizona phone numbers tied to their accounts, and all 5 appeared in the vicinity of the Capitol South Metro Station. You know who was from Arizona? Ray Epps. Weird. Rather than near the part of the RNC where the pipe bomb was placed. The FBI also noted it in documents obtained by the subcommittee that none of the 5 devices appeared near the DNC or in the intersection and the RNC, and they eliminated the owners of those devices from the pipe bomb. They similarly, the FBI, targeted 3 major cell phone carriers, blank, blank, and blank, by issuing search warrants related to the pipe bomb there. The 3 carriers provide 98% of all coverage, so they should have had this person. From the information from the FBI, they got 35 phone numbers there, which appeared in all 3 target areas and made a call at 7:41. FBI analyzed this. The number grew to 130 devices. Then in the weeks and months, they posted this. Said the case team has received returns from these warrants in response to the cell warrants, is continuing to scrub the names, and they're doing that there. Now what we saw, 36 of these phone numbers were assigned to agents for interviews. 98 of these phone numbers required additional investigative steps. 51 of those phone numbers were identified as not needing further action because the phones are law enforcement or persons on the exclusion list. So that, like, they're people. We call those feds, undercover, confidential human source, whatever label you want to apply. Why are they being excluded? As the FBI continued analyzing large data sets from the carriers, certain devices exhibited behavior consistent with the suspect. For example, on April 21, the case team identified a blank user who was in the area of the DNC at the time. FBI requested, got historical cell data, ultimately unclear what happened to this lead. In addition to this, also got warrants for ad companies. Ad companies get data when they serve you ads with their ad ID and personal identifier numbers. By March, the case team identified one ad ID whose movements matched the suspect's movements and requested surveillance. Also unclear what happened to this lead. Who knows what happened there? The FBI effort to collect this data did lead to credible leads, but now, 4 years later, we don't know what the status of any of that is. Then they accused the FBI major cell phone carriers of providing them with corrupted data, which is obviously not true. In June of 2023, former assistant director in charge of the FBI field office testified before the judiciary. D'Antonio served as the assistant director and oversaw the pipe bomb investigation. During this interview, he confirmed they did do a geofence, but did you get that data? He said no, it was corrupted. Here's that exchange. Question from Congress. All right, Stephen, we received a video of this. The alleged perpetrator uses a cell phone. That produced nothing. It's a geofence of data cell records, right? FBI. So there's a lot of data, phone data coming in. Yes, I've seen the same video. Yes, I've watched the same video. We put out the same video. It looks like a phone. Was it a real phone? Not a real phone? Was it a ruse? Oh. So was the person just sitting there trying to pretend like they're on a bench taking a phone call? We don't know until we find the person, right? And ask them those questions. So we did a complete geofence. We have complete data. I mean, not complete, because there was some data that was corrupted by one of the providers, not purposefully by them, right? It's just unusual circumstance that we have corrupt data from one of the providers. I can't remember right now which one, but for that day, which is awful because we don't have the information to search. So could it have been that provider? Yeah, with our luck, with this investigation, it probably was, right? I mean, so maybe if we did have that, if that data wasn't corrupted and if it wasn't purposely corrupted, so that is painful for us not to have that. So, we look for everything. We don't have that though. Say, what the hell did you just say, dude? So you have all the data, but you don't have all the data. It's all corrupted. And you really wish you had it though, because you could have found the guy, except for that one thing. Got it. Following his testimony, the subcommittee said, that's a lie, obviously. So they sent letters to all major carriers, blank, blank, and blank, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. Thanks for redacting those. Asking each cell carrier to confirm whether they provided corrupted cell tower data to the FBI and whether they contacted those cell carriers to inform them that a portion of the data was corrupted. In written responses, here's what they say. FBI never told us about anything being corrupted. They say blank was provided with warrants by law enforcement, including from the FBI, seeking cell site information for specific areas within DC for the dates of J5 and J6. We provided responsive, accessible cell site information for all the devices that pinged the indicated cell sites during the time in the warrants. That would often include devices that were powered on, but were not being used by an individual actively interacting with the device because it's got to maintain the signal. Now, to the best of our knowledge, the cell carriers say, we did not provide corrupted data in response to any of these warrants. Depending on the size of the files, Verizon may have shared them in an encrypted form through our workflow management system or Citrix's ShareFile, which is a file sharing platform. To the best of our knowledge, no law enforcement entity indicated that any of the above referenced data we provided was corrupted or unreadable. Never happened. If we were made aware of any of these issues, we would work with law enforcement officers to try to solve the issue. Duh. Here's another memo from another one. Blank stores information only to the extent that we need to. Moreover, Blank is not able to identify with particularity legal requests a certain thing. However, we did receive a number of law enforcement requests and legal demands related to the J6, and it's likely that those requests were responded to in the order they were received. Now, our company has not identified any communications or reports from the FBI or any other federal investigative entity showing that anything was corrupted or unreadable. Didn't happen. More generally, if they have a concern with data, we'll address it. We'll provide all responsive information that you need. So the FBI lied. And here's another one, a letter from Blank. In response to Loudermilk's letter, I am confirming that based upon a reasonable internal inquiry, none of the records that AT&T provided to law enforcement regarding cell data were corrupted. Okay, 3 for 3. Nothing was corrupted. But he lied and said it was. During a follow-up with D'Antonio, he reiterated he was briefed by agents about the corrupted data, but I can't give you any specifics. So some other agent who's an internal mole, no, I deleted his name from the list. It's corrupted. The cellular carrier's response undermines the previous testimony from the FBI, who are liars. Following J6, the FBI identified security camera footage showing this dude was using a cell phone. As a result, they took significant steps to investigate, couldn't find anything, then lied to us all and said the data was corrupted. Liars. The FBI also said the pipe bombs were viable, but didn't tell us how. According to the FBI, both of those pipe bombs with 60-minute kitchen timers, which obviously were not on or didn't work, they said that they were viable and they could have seriously killed or injured people because they needed to make J6 into something. They also said the suspect planted pipe bombs the night before and didn't explain how their 60-minute timers could work 16 hours later. Unclear whether they could even be detonated because they blew them up there at the scene too. According to an FBI bomb technician who agreed to speak with the staff on condition of anonymity, the use of the term viable is a deviation for standard descriptions. Traditionally, bomb technicians don't use vague language. They refer to a bomb as a device if it would function as designed, or they call it a hoax. That's it. It's a device if it'll explode, or it's a hoax if it will not. We don't call it viable. What does that mean? It's either a bomb or it isn't. In the case of the pipe bomb, it's unclear why they use the word viable in a non-standard format. In the initial weeks and months of the investigation, the FBI also invested significant resources into identifying the suspect through the pipe bomb's parts. In furtherance, they contacted major distributors like the kitchen timer people and more. They tried to track the purchases of what led to the bombs, and here they are. Looks like some metal piping with end caps on it that you'd use in gas or water, and then a kitchen timer with some wires drilled into the top of one of the end caps. In addition to analyzing the pipe bomb components, the FBI examined the devices for any human fingerprints, but according to the documents, no prints, no DNA, or anything else. Within the first 2 weeks of the investigation, they identified the specific brand of the timers and tried to go find who bought it. They found customers who purchased 2 or more timers between December 1, 2020 and Jan 5, 21. As a result of this request, 6 people who purchased more than 1 kitchen timer since December 2020. Specifically, the FBI identified an individual who bought 4 just days before J5. According to a document, the FBI appears to have reviewed security footage. It's unclear what happened to that lead. No one knows. In February, they expanded the time frame from online purchases and in-store purchases, and they got 241,000 results. Then they provided a list of people of interest to compare against this other data. Now, after determining chemical components of the black powder found inside, they attempted to contact the stores for that. The initial request to blank, for example, asked for customer information for anybody who purchased these things, and they got 60 individuals who bought 2 of the chemical inputs. Then they compared those with the rest of their data. Don't know what that returned. As with other components, the FBI reached out to stores and commercial distributors for the pipe nipples and the end caps used in the bombs. They identified, and the nipple is the part of the pipe that you attach the other part to, kind of like a nipple. By early February 2021, the case team had conducted interviews for all 10 customers who reported purchasing pipe nipples for end caps for home and work projects. Now, as the case team's initial efforts to identify this person failed, they expanded their request for more pipe nipples. Similarly, the FBI also requested commercial distributors for end caps, and they came up with 5. In its analysis of the pipe bomb, we know that the FBI said that the batteries that were used were 9-volt something batteries, maybe Duracell. The FBI contacted the company to determine which retail stores received and sold the device's batteries. And it said that the FBI batteries used in the devices originated in a lot which was not sold by any of the 4 distribution centers. Wow. And so they went to Malaysia to see where the batteries came from. By late January, someone informed the FBI the device's batteries originated in products that were distributed to locations in 26 states and still tried to identify them. Then they got a partial print, possible serial number on the wires used in the devices. They contacted the manufacturer to see if he ordered them there. Couldn't get enough info. Now, as the case team attempted to track down each individual component, it also tried to identify redacted. Within the first 2 weeks, the FBI identified 532 individuals who redacted. After further investigation, they got 532 down to 68. Remains unclear what resulted from this analysis. A lot of data that came from this. They expanded the scope, but still, suspect is at large. Now, in addition, after analyzing the pipe bombs, they publicly released information describing the bombs as viable. However, given the 60-minute timers and the 16 hours that elapsed, remains unclear if they were even capable of detonating. They've refused to tell us, would they even explode? In the immediate aftermath, as we near the end of this report, the FBI's case team worked aggressively to cultivate and pursue leads toward apprehending the suspect. 50 investigators, special agent, and more at the outset. But of those 50, 30 were special agents. The team comprised everybody: cellular team, computer team, digital imaging team, 105 million data points. But still, their investigative efforts yielded a promising array of leads. But by the end of February 2021, the FBI began diverting resources away from this investigation. One possible explanation? Well, they don't have any more credible leads. But 4 years later, no suspect has been arrested or identified. And that's the final page. This is the conclusion. Discovered shortly before and after the initial breach, the pipe bombs played a role. They caused resources to be diverted. According to the FBI, they were viable. They said in their own words they could have seriously killed or injured people, and then they paraded Kamala Harris through it and Nancy Pelosi and many civilians and kids walking by the bombs like it ain't nothing. The subcommittee's investigation also revealed numerous findings about how they investigated this. They took considerable steps to find this guy. Security camera footage, geofences, cell warrants they lied about, track the components, but they couldn't find anything. 4 years later, no one. The subcommittee began this investigation to shine light on this. The committee will continue their oversight and provide us more information, including legislative reforms, to address this. So, interesting report, 79 pages. We hit the highlights on it. Very curious to see exactly how incompetent they were when they let Kamala walk up to the bomb, Nancy Pelosi walk up to the bomb, dozens of kids. You have Capitol Police officers begging law enforcement to not be so useless and to actually stop people from walking by an explosive vicinity. But we knew already that the FBI was incompetent or complicit. It's one of the two. And what we have seen here are a lot of additional investigative efforts, but not many answers. And so you can draw a conclusion from that and maybe believe that the FBI is just not trying so hard because they know who is really behind this. Somebody said that the data was corrupted. Stephen D'Antonio, as we know, lied about that. The telecoms companies are in the data business. They are not in the business of having corrupted materials. So interesting report that dropped. Very little in the way of new answers. Not much inquiry in this report into the federal agencies themselves. Did you guys do this? Do you know who it is? What about confidential human sources who were there on January 6th? Are there more videos that we could release so that we could take a closer look at this? We got a lot of questions about January 6th. This is an interesting report that drops right before Trump comes into power, but we expect this story is not done. And of course, we're going to be here to continue to cover this. The executive summary and the full report now released 4 years later, examining the state of the investigation and the pipe bomber, which we have not been able to find. We'll be here. Thanks for subscribing and joining us as our coverage continues. All right, my friends. And so let's take a look at what's happening out there on the cables. Oh, it looks like Biden's going to be speaking soon. And we're keeping our eye on all the terror stuff. Looks like Biden's going to be speaking any minute now. Here's what Fox News is reporting.
Prepared for it. Call clickgranger.com.
The chaos on Bourbon Street that killed 14 people, including the suspect, Samshuddin Jabbar.
Biden speaking soon. Let's see.
You didn't go corner to corner without seeing first responders. And those folks, I mean, hats off to them. The job that these people have, and then go down Bourbon Street and see the carnage that they have to see.
Former DHS Acting Secretary Chad Wolf is here, but first to correspondent David Spunt reporting live from Washington for us. Hey, David.
Hey, Jackie, we just got an update from White House officials. President Biden a couple of hours ago held a meeting with his top Homeland Security officials, also top leadership from the FBI, the Attorney General, and senior leaders from the Pentagon. And the White House says President Biden is directing all federal resources to be available as he continues to monitor both what happened in Las Vegas and, of course, New Orleans. As for New Orleans, the FBI now believes the suspect acted alone, but still wants as much information as possible about him. And the FBI knows people out there have it. Watch.
Whether you know Jabbar personally, worked with him, served in the military, or saw him in New Orleans or Texas, we need to talk to you. You may not think you have relevant information, but what you know could tie in to one of our investigative leads.
After several interviews yesterday, Jackie, investigators have come to the conclusion this was a lone wolf attack. That being said, they still want as much information as possible relating to the 42-year-old. They do believe people out there were in contact with him in the days and hours leading up to the attack. Hundreds of miles away from New Orleans, here in the nation's capital, the work continues for the FBI, Homeland Security officials, and others to figure out more about the suspect and continue to update President Biden in real time while keeping the American people in loop as much as possible. The FBI discovered 5 videos posted to his Facebook, time-stamped at 1:29 a.m. just before the attack, the last at 3:02 a.m. In the first video, he said he wanted to harm family and friends and then changed course, according to the FBI. He was born in the United States and served in the Army, going to Afghanistan for almost a year in 2009. Yesterday, multiple law enforcement sources say they saw 3 men and a woman near the scene on surveillance video, and it looked to investigators like they may have been touching what appeared to be a possible explosive device. After interviewing those people, it now appears they were bystanders, according to law enforcement. But those members of law enforcement continue to keep them close in case anything should possibly change. Jackie?
All right. So that's what Fox News is reporting. We'll keep our eye on that. Apparently, Biden might be speaking any minute now, so we'll see if that's happening. But my friends, it's been a beautiful stream. We got to get up to speed on the latest in the various attacks, one in Las Vegas, one in New Orleans. We listened to the press briefing earlier today from the FBI and New Orleans officials. We were waiting to see if we were going to get a new Las Vegas update from the law enforcement officials there. If that pops up, of course, we'll jump in on that. But now I want to say thank you to those of you who are supporting our work here today with your amazing super chats and new membos and more. I also want to invite you to come and join us for our in-person watch party at watcherlodge.com. And so we've got some cool stuff that I added in if you want to join up. There is going to be, well, here, let me open this in a different, here it is. Got this here. Okay, so when you go over to watcherlodge.com, you're going to go right to a calendar event, and it's going to look like this. The calendar event is right here. The inauguration watch party is going to be live in person Monday, January 20th here in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's going to be a ton of fun. We've already got a bunch of people signing up, and our special guest is confirmed. And we're going to have a bunch of special guests, but it's going to be great. And so come join us January 20th, 9 a.m. to 2 in Arizona time. The swearing in ceremony and the inaugural address, Arizona, will be Mountain Time. So East Coast time should be noon. So 10 a.m. Arizona, noon Eastern time, Trump swearing in, inaugural address, then there'll be a presidential parade, and then we'll just hang out. We're going to mix and mingle. It's a great venue. When you sign up and go and buy your ticket, so as you'll see, you just go over here, watcherlodge.com, go to this event, buy your ticket, and it's going to cover the cost of your food. It's going to cover the cost of the venue, because we have an awesome venue, a huge video wall. Trump's going to be as big as you've ever seen him, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So grab a ticket. It's $100. If you want to get a second ticket for a friend or someone else, you can check that out. Follow these instructions down here, and you can either use this link to buy a ticket for them, or they can create an account. That way, if you sign up on Lodge, you'll get access to the Inauguration Central, which currently is private right now because this is an incognito browser. You'll also get in the inauguration chat. So when you sign up, you'll get access to these two panels, which are private spaces, but all the details are inside. Once you sign up, you can join the chat, and you can get the details on the event, including a picture of what it looks like inside. So watcherlodge.com. We're very excited for this event. I'm very excited for who is going to be joining us. And so get your inauguration watch party tickets. East Coast is going to be in DC. West Coast, Scottsdale, Arizona. Come join us for the inauguration watch party. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see everybody. If you missed us in Vegas, got to come out here for this one, because it was just a ton of fun. Okay, so let's see who is joining us. We're keeping our eye on what the cables are reporting. If anything interesting happens, we'll jump over there. Pookie's Ma is here today. What's up, Pookie's Ma? Saying, happy Thursday, watchers. Happy Thursday to you, Pookie's Ma. Says, Rob, happy Thursday. It's noon here on the East Coast, not 11. Can you provide some details on your inauguration event? I really want to celebrate it and never heard from my Don Jr. connection. Oh, man. Yeah, it's going to be 9 a.m. Arizona time until 2 p.m., and then you'll meet some friends, and then you can go out to dinner with all your friends and hang out, and it'll be great. So check it out. Should be good. All right. This one is from Voice of the People. Says, hope we see you, Pookie's Mom. Voice of the People says, in a surprising turn of event, Rick D will be joining Off-Label tonight. Rick Donner in the house. He popped on with us on New Year's Eve. Time to hear from the old man himself. Old is really just a state of mind. Thank you, Voice of the People. Rick D, have a great stream. You guys, it's going to be a ton of fun. Ollie says, one membo is coming in. Thank you, Ollie, for bringing in one new membo. Glocky's here saying Fort Bragg had over 41 soldiers murdered or disappear. Yikes. Special forces guys and their wives, Delta guys, drug deals, tons happening on civilian bases. So a special forces guy blowing up a Cybertruck is actually pretty tame. Is it? Compared to what we don't know about. But the Cybertruck bomber apparently was retired out of Ukraine and was a huge fan of certain units in Ukraine. That's interesting. From Glocky. Oh, I don't know. I was never a special forces person or in Fort Bragg, but I'll take your word for it, Glocky. Jeffrey Adams says, the FBI, is just trying to tap down the rhetoric and the news to avoid the truth. We are the W word. YouTube will not let me post the W word. They just disappeared 14 or 15 unarmed citizens. We are oh, I see what the W word is. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that we're in a state of real conflict right now. And it may not be a war of a declaration of war, but we know the timeline that we're living in. Thank you, Jeffrey Adams, for that. Jennifer says, Rick Donner is going to be on Off-Label Podcast tonight with Voice of the People. Please show your love and support, fam, and head over there. Check out Off-Label Podcast. Throw that in your search bar and go join the amazing stream. Hey, Ravicus says, we may throw your rock and hide your hand, working in the dark against your fellow man, but as sure as God made black and white, what's down in the dark will be brought to light. You can run for a long time, run on for a long time, on for a long time. Sooner or later, God will cut you down. God's going to cut you down by Johnny Cash. Nice lyrics there from Ravicus. Thank you, Ravicus. Andy Murrow became a supporter. Thank you, Andy. Very nice to have you as a membo. Knights of Knee, 7 months as a membo. Thank you, Knights of Knee. Says Lockaholics present and accounted for. Nice to have you here, Knights of Knee. Thanks for supporting us for 7 months. Bruce Wayne says membo for 11 months. FBI, Udol what beer, $. From Bruce Wayne in the house. Bruce, thanks for being here almost for a full year. RP Games says, keep up the excellent work, Robert. Thank you, RP Games. I appreciate it, my man. Thanks for supporting us for 16 full months, almost 2 full babies. Jennifer, Rob, do we really need an FBI anymore? No, not this FBI, that's for sure. No, we do not need an FBI. We don't need federal law enforcement goons. We've got 50 different states. They can handle their own investigations. We've got a dozen other federal agencies that can worry about national security and whatever. Local law enforcement can be done by local, accountable individuals, not a giant national secret police force. We do not need them. They're liars. They're not intelligencing anything. And it's time for them to go. Crash says, if I was a betting man, his statement that he believes this was a lone wolf is pure BS. He's hoping that the accomplices will accept the BS. They are still looking for the accomplices. So that, in other words, the accomplices will start acting like they're not under investigation anymore. They're just going to go back and start buying bottle cap or pipe nipples. Voice of the People says, I'm supposed to believe 3 people planting boom booms are not related. Okay. If true, we have a bigger problem. Yeah, that's also true. We have a problem of people randomly now becoming terrorists or something. Rob White, what's up, Rob White? Says, I'm in New Orleans, NOLA. They said that the guy who rented the truck and the guy who rented the Tesla truck were rented from the same company. And the 2 men were stationed at a military base together, is what I heard. Yeah, I think that's accurate reporting so far. Now, again, the implications of that, it's a hell of a coincidence if that is all just coincidental. Hell of a coincidence. Thank you, Rob White, for the nice dono. This old guy says, if it's so danged early, how can you stand there with a straight face to say NOLA and Vegas attacks are unrelated and both are by lone wolf actors? You guys think we believe whatever you've been given to read? Sheesh. Yeah, they do. This old guy, will you stop complaining and just watch the football game, please? Okay. Stop using your critical thinking. Just turn on the sports game. All right. Not a Fed. As demonstrated with J6 grandmas, FBI should have no issue setting a geofence around the lone wolf's house and find anyone else that has been coming or going, minus his FBI handlers. Of course, the data will be corrupt. Yeah, whoever was processing the data may have corrupted it, but very curious things happening. Jeffrey Adams, could the mayor say I or me a few more times? Kind of an Obama vibe. He talks about it constantly, about himself constantly. I. NY says, it's always the same scenario. They thank each other. They say nothing of substance, thanking people for doing their job that they're paid to do. That's what they do. What else are they going to say? Anything useful? No. Crash. What is Jabbar's birth name? I doubt he was born Jabbar. His ISIS name translates the son of the religion of the giant. It is not properly grammatically constructed. There should be a definite article before Jabbar. The definite article should be El, rendering his last name El Jabbar. Something doesn't smell right. I've been an Arab speaker, Defense Language Institute trained since 1968 and 9. He had help. FBI is still looking for that help. Wow, Crash. Those are some good details, man. Since 1968, 69. So you know who we're talking about, man. We got an expert in the house. Thank you, Crash. Not a Fed. Says, this governor reminds me of Pelosi in San Fran telling everyone not to listen to the racist Trump about the China virus. Just get out there and celebrate in Chinatown. We all know how that turned out. Yeah, from Nancy. Get out there and celebrate. Hey, BZ says, do you feel like America is too normalized to mass tragedy now? Moving on is important, but it just seems it's about programming people to forget. Maybe one tragedy needs to stick. Maybe life shouldn't go on as planned for once. From BZ. That's an interesting one, BZ. I mean, it's like, there's probably some truth to that, but you also don't want to wish for more horror and devastation just to make a point. You're like, well, maybe people will wake up. Kind of what Bill Gates did. He's like, well, maybe the next pandemic will really wake people up because you idiots didn't get it. I understand the point though, BZ. It's almost like you're numb to it. And I even felt that when we were talking about that New York story where those like 3 or 4 dudes shot 30 people and like didn't kill anybody. You're like, that's what? These are terrible shots. How incompetent are you? But it's a good thing they didn't kill anybody. It's like a miracle they didn't kill anybody, and it's just non-life threatening injuries. But the fact that you can even like that even comes up in your brain, you're like, yeah, it's not good. Hey, Beezy, Kyle Cowden says, lone actor, my patootie, where did he get all the milsurp gear? That can't be done without assistance, even if it's just supply. Seen it before. Kyle Cowden, sounds like you know what you're talking about, man. Very curious cases. Like, how are these guys like all American military, one guy might be you might call him a hero, right? Meritorious award and these things. You'd say they just snap and now they're blowing themselves up and eliminating themselves. Very strange. Says, I bet that it's another Nadal Hassan. Red flags too. FBI knew about him for years. Rob White, they don't want people to cancel their football game tickets. You don't want to lose that tourism money. No, the Super Bowl's a big one. Makes a lot of money for everybody. Leonard says, one good thing has come from our national nightmare since 2021. Millions of Americans do not trust the Dem-controlled corrupt media. That is a nice silver lining there, Leonard. You're right about that. A lot of people waking up, and we're glad to be a part of that. Hey, F. Joe Biden says, forget Joe Biden. Hashtag forget Joe Biden. We will soon enough, right into the dustbin of history. Rob White. Nice, quiet neighbor. Boom. There it is. Nice, quiet neighbor. If you had that on your bingo card, you mark that one down. Kyle Cowden says, boom sniffing puppers, they can be easily defeated by using fresh shoe black inside of anything. Don't ask me how I know. Damn YouTube filters. That's interesting. It's not legal advice or criminal advice. Sharpie Guy. What's up, Sharpie Guy? Hey, Rob. Happy New Year. Are you aware of Elon's X post calling out Trump's base subtards and telling us to F our face? I don't think it's exactly what he said. I mean, he did say some of those things, but I don't think he was saying that to Trump's base from his perspective, to give him the benefit of the doubt. All over the H-1B visas that is referred to as indentured servitude. Trump is losing a lot of support over this, and I'm barely teetering on the proverbial fence. Well, thanks for that, Sharpie Guy. I think, hopefully, from my perspective, we can keep this issue in context to all of the other bigger issues that are also out there. So hopefully we keep you on the Trump train, because even though you might disagree on H-1B, I think there's a lot of other very powerful things that we're going to accomplish together, even if there is a disagreement on that. So hopefully you hang on to the fence and we see you back here. Kyle Cowden says, a Tesla at Trump Hotel, a little too on the nose. Exactly right. Yeah. And a Cybertruck, nonetheless, at Trump Hotel, parked right there, exploding on New Year's Day. Come on. Thank you, Kyle. 200 Watt Studio says, sounds like the dude blew himself up and his truck to get away from his crazy wife. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. She does sound nuts. Uncle Bozy says, looking sort of like the Las Vegas bomb was a big F you to his wife. He had no intention of harming anyone else. He's just going to go take himself out. Well, his wife hated Trump. So wouldn't she like that he did that? I mean, not that he's dead, presumably, but that, like if you're going to go out, it's better than blowing it up like in front of a Kamala building or something. Like if he really wanted to like send it to his wife, wouldn't he like done it at a Kamala headquarters? Glocky says he's going to end up being another Ukrainian zealot, just like the guy that tried ending Trump at his golf course. And since he was stationed in Europe and apparently an expert in UAVs, he very well could have been in Ukraine. From Glocky. Here's one from Charles Downs. Said he may have been applying for a contract op in Ukraine. Also interesting. Ravika says, this video shows the cameraman trained on the pickup before it was turned and took out those people. And so you can watch that on your own time. This old guy says, Turo is the Uber or the Airbnb of vehicle rentals, right? It's a very popular app. A lot of people are on it. Spud says, Rob, seeing how much the accelerant that guy had in the Cybertruck, it is possible that this guy had the canister slightly opened or had pressure valves released, since they can produce vapors which need to escape. He may have been overcome by the vapors and could not get out in the time after setting the detonators. Tesla also have had problems with their locks, which have resulted in death due to engulfment, like drownings, from Spuds. That's good thesis there, Spuds. Good possibilities. 200 Watt Studio says, I'll be your real estate broker. I'll put pedal to the metal to get it done. No, 200 Watt Studio. No, too soon. No. Yeah, we're going to see a lot of houses very quickly. We're going to break all traffic rules. You know how many houses we're going to see in one day? 25 houses. That's not possible. Trust me, I'll get it done. Glocky, Fort Bragg is huge. The 82nd, which Jabbar was, takes up one side of the base. At Selection School, 2 SF units take up the other part of the base. SOCOM takes up another. 18th, another. If you have Pole Air Force Base connected to it, Camp McCall, which is the Special Forces training area, numerous drop zones, division support, and others, it's huge. From Glocky. Eric Sean says, Livelsburger sounds like a term to describe someone who defames McDonald's sandwiches. My lame dad joke contribution for 2025. Livelsburger. It does. It kind of sounds like a Supreme Court case. United States versus Livelsburger. Like, oh man. It's like groundbreaking precedent. You're right, Eric Sean. It's a good one. Hey, Sharpie Guy says they have to highlight the American citizen perhaps to run cover for the border disaster, huh? MK Ultra, huh? Lord knows that it can't just be one of the gotaways that is wreaking havoc on America, right? Rob, I'm so suspicious of the media, Elon, Vivek, and even my favorite president, who leave me perplexed about all things. Events, actions, and efforts that gaslight us cause it. I'm honestly scared of the people that I lifted up to my family and friends. Chaos reigns supreme in the world again. Well, Sharpie Guy, I understand being upset, certainly, about H-1B and all those things. I just think it's a policy disagreement. I think that Vivek and Elon and Trump have a little different perspective, and maybe they're seeing things from a different worldview. And I think that we're probably talking past each other in many ways on the H-1B issue, which is why we didn't spend a lot of time on it, because it's kind of like a Rorschach test. A lot of people, I think, are seeing in it what they want to see. In other words, Trump and the base and people who would be where I would fall on this, which is less H-1B. In fact, I think immigration should largely stop until we figure out what the hell is going on with all of the people who are here until the border is secured. Then we can process all the other stuff, which is largely my position. But I do think that the H-1B issue, I think that what we see, which is people being brought in to work at Circle K and to drive, vehicles and things, jobs that should go to Americans. We're also seeing that Elon is trying to hire, a huge portion of people from around the world, and he sees it differently. So when we're talking about H-1B, we're just arguing past each other, and it's not a very fruitful conversation at all. So I think that in the conversation, we'll get to more clarity. But the way I see it, it's just a policy disagreement. I actually think it's a good thing that we're working through these things, but I don't see it as the end of, the movement or as anything that's worth knifing each other over, quite frankly, which is why we didn't spend a lot of time on it. Kyle Cowden, and I think the left is very excited about this. I saw Caitlin Collins and many other people. Look at what they're saying. They hate each other. There's a civil war, all those things. No. I don't think that's right at all. Kyle Cowden says, the military is not a social experiment, and so stop it. Stop. You're right, it's not. Thank you for that one. Glocky says Biden is going to honor Liz Cheney and others with presidential medals. Gag me. Bag of Bolts says, that is a stage prop. Look at it. Stereotypical cartoon image. For Joe. Behind Joe. I mean, he looked terrible. Jennifer says, Benny Johnson reported that the Capitol is on lockdown now. Oh my goodness. Benny Johnson's on it. I wonder what that's about. Beverly Fox. Thank you, Beverly, for becoming a supporter. Very appreciative of you. Thank you for joining us today for this extra long stream here today. Oh, it's been good. Benny Johnson, what's up? Beverly Fox, KX250 FMX in the house. Says, as always, great info, Rob. Thanks, Rob. Enjoy a peaceful and relaxing day. Thank you, KX250 FMX, for that one. And there was a dono in the house. That was supposed to attach to the last message. Thank you, KX, for the dono. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a good day. It's been a good day. Rob White, surveillance video released had the camera moving from Rob White, talking about the J6er. Jesser Bob says, but Rob, how am I supposed to get a selfie with the bomb if I don't drive by the bomb? Well, exactly right. And the robot too. You definitely want to get the robot. This is crazy. There's a pipe bomb right here. Rob, it's very difficult to get a selfie next to the bomb if I'm not allowed to drive my government vehicle next to the bomb. That's right. Thank you, Sharpie guy. Your commentary is hilarious, Rob. It completely Keystone Cops all over again in stitches, no pun intended. It's just wild, these cops, man. Thank you for laughing at it, Sharpie guy. Sometimes I don't know how it lands. I'm like, just read the document, Rob. What are you doing? All right, but I can't help it. Rob White, the pipe identifies as a bomb. I'm not a pipe. I am a bomb. Thank you for that one. It's 2025 now. You can do whatever you want. Glocky. We know, except Trump won, so better get it in before the transition takes place. Glocky says, CNN, we don't know if the person who exploded a car bomb outside Trump Tower was pro-Trump or anti-Trump. They always have a hard time with this. We can't really identify what the motive of the shooter was who shot Trump in the head. Might be a huge fan and want him to be president, which is why he's just zinging him in the earlobe. It's insane. Thank you for that one. Jesser Bob says, this is the best DC tour bus trip I've ever been on. They let me off the bus to pick up souvenirs. I need more selfies. Yeah, the tour bus guy's like, and over here we have an RNC pipe bomb. You're going to want to lean your head out the window. Take some photos of that. Kyle Cowden. I was on a standoff once. SWAT was using a robot and it kept tumping over. A SWAT guy dressed like a wannabe ninja kept scurrying out to put it back up. Run out there and flip that back up again. He's like, again? I just did that one. Do it again. You're the fastest one. I am the fastest one, so I guess I will go do it. All right, I'll run out there. Rocky says, what's up? Man, first time I'm able to catch a live, and I have to keep pausing from roaring and laughter at the pipe bomb report. Funniest show in a while. Bravo, brother. And of course, belated Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you, Rocky. It's great to see you, Rocky. It's a wild one to read through. Thanks for joining us, Rocky. Glocky says, why shoot yourself in the head if you're going to blow yourself up? That's also another interesting question. They said Cybertruck driver sustained a gunshot wound to the head prior to the detonation of the vehicle, is reporting Curtis Houck. Wow, that's interesting. And remember that other movie? What was that other movie where the guy, I can't remember his name. It was a bomb movie, and he actually drove the vehicle into the building to stop the bomb, but I don't think he knew that he was driving the bomb into the building. Remember that movie? I think it was Tim Robbins. Is that guy's name? And the other guy, something like that. Yeah, it was an interesting movie, and I'm wondering if something like that was going down. Leonard S. Anyone know the name of that movie? Leonard, ancient and medieval rulers often got suspects to reveal crucial information. A friend told me this. Yeah, I think that's accurate. Rob White says they identified thousands at J6, but they couldn't identify the pipe bomber. Of course not, because it was them. Mark Butcher, keep your heads on a swivel, people. No doubt about that. Thank you, Mark B., for being a member for 13 months, a baker's dozen. Thanks for being here, Mark. Happy New Year. Voice of the People says, I see so many connections to all these events. I feel like Charlie Kelly from It's Always Sunny. There is no Carol in HR. I've seen some of those shows. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Those are funny dudes. Rob White says, Jamie Raskin said, leave that guy alone. He's just trying to survive. Referring to Ray Epps, it's all a Dem cover-up. From Rob White, right. Yeah, they love Ray Epps. They gave him a full hagiography after his plea deal and before that. Rob White says, can find this stuff, but not our taxes sent abroad. Thank you, Rob White. Chetty Mo says, be in the know with Chetty Mo. Wink, wink. Be in the know with Chetty Mo. Wink, wink. Thank you, Chetty Mo, for that. Biden's going to be speaking any minute now, apparently. Uncle Bozy says DHS is just as or more scary than the FBI. Yeah, I think in many ways that could be true. I mean, they might be just letting in mass murderers. Bruce Wayne, it read, you'll do what for beer money? You'll do what for beer money? Oh, I got it. You'll do what for beer money? I should have gotten that one. Thank you, Bruce Wayne, for explaining it. I got it now. Took me a minute. Took me 2 times. Hey, Former says both terrorists choose electric vehicles. Could this be a Green Party operation? Well, if it is a Green Party operation, they caused a lot of extra CO2 with the explosion, you know? So it's not really good for the environment. Ravicus says if they got rid of the H1B, Elon would not be here. Like I understand the frustration with H1B, totally. But are you willing to throw out Elon and Trump and Vivek over that one issue when I think it's largely a misunderstanding? And I think Elon's actually been coming around to a little bit more of a harder line on it, talking about like mandatory fees and stuff like that to actually make it more difficult. So I think it's that age-old battle. You have a thesis, an antithesis, and then you have a synthesis, and you come to a stronger position. I think we're getting there. Jeffrey Adams says Cybertruck guy eliminated himself with a handgun. From Jeffrey Adams. And Sharpie guy says, hey, good point. Well made, Rob. I'm going to go to my Bible to find some peace of mind, Sharpie guy. And I will definitely never be associated with the lefties out of their right mind, from Sharpie guy. Thank you, Sharpie guy. Yeah, look, I mean, I get riled up too about stuff. I get all twisted. And I understand the feeling and the emotion. It's like, we worked so hard for this. And now you're going to turn around and tell us to F us in our faces? I understand it. I understand it. But we're going to keep the big end game in mind, and we're going to see where this puppy goes. But we do want to make sure that they know when we're upset about certain things and continue to hash through it. Spud says, if Glocky's update is correct, then the miscreant in the Cybertruck was eliminated prior. It's plausible this vehicle was on autonomous, on autopilot. Maybe they autopiloted it in there. I wonder if there's surveillance footage of him pulling in. I'm sure that there is. And that should be pretty interesting. Okay, so my friends, it has been a beautiful stream today. Of course, we're going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party to hang out there for a bit and to see what everybody is doing over there. Let's say hello to some friends on X for the morning. For the day, it's afternoon now. Let's see who's joining us on X. And then we'll be done for the day. We've got a bunch of segments coming out today, by the way, a bunch of stuff. All the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day stuff that has not been clipped and published, all coming out today. So check that out as well. Fred says, the woman who found the RNC bomb used to work at the CIA. Wow. That's interesting from Fred. Michelle says, so glad you're posting on X. Much easier to share. I've been following you forever on YouTube, Locals, and Rumble. I would love a follow back from Michelle. You'll get one, Michelle. Thank you for saying that. John Paul McCrary says, I deleted YouTube. I don't like Rumble, but I'm a longtime supporter, and I prefer X. X is making its rounds. What's up, Fred? What's up, Michelle Summers? God, freedom, Constitution, God, gun, dog, nature-loving conservative. Followed, obviously. Thank you for that, Michelle. God bless you and Happy New Year. My friends, we are now going to go over Arlington Road, Not a Fed. Nailed it. That's the name of the movie. Jeff Bridges, Tim Robbins. That's it. You nailed it. Thank you. That's it. Arlington Road with Jeff Bridges and Tim Robbins. It's a wild one. Did you guys ever see that one? Check it out. There's a twist at the end that I ruined. Sorry about that. But definitely interesting, okay? It's an interesting situation. Did you guys ever see that? Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so my friends, we're going to leave it there. We're going to head over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We got our members only after party happening there. We'd love to have you join us. We'd also love to have you join us at the inauguration watch party. Get your tickets at watcherlodge.com. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have a ton of friends there, and we want to see you. We want to thank our mods and our meme smiths who helped mod the fort down for us, keep things nice and orderly here on the show. K-Bean, Donut, Carrie B, Playin' Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek on all the Rumbles. Thank you to our amazing mods and our meme smiths, the best of the best. We also have our new website, robertgovea.com. You can see there on your screen. We got some new RobBot AI technology over there that you can check out and more stuff to look at there. Of course, thank you to our Spotlight supporters on YouTube, Mitchell Townsend, MJ Powell, Anthony Petticini, who support us with some extra love on the YouTube platforms. And of course, my friends, now is the time for us to leave it there on the day. We're heading over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We'd love to see you there, but if not, we're coming back here tomorrow. Oh, and a schedule change tomorrow. We're going to start at the same time tomorrow as well, 10 a.m., because there is the first session of the House that is coming into play, and we're supposed to have a speaker vote tomorrow, January 3rd. So we're going to cover that live. It's going to be brought to us courtesy of C-SPAN. Opening day of Congress, in fact, as you can see right here, opening day of Congress right here. Starting in 20 hours, 25 minutes, and 16 seconds, watch the vote for speaker. We're going to cover that live. So come back here tomorrow, and we'll see you at about, I think it's 10 a.m. Arizona time and noon Eastern time. So here, 119th Congress meets at noon tomorrow. Republicans are going to control the Senate 53-47. New majority leader is going to be Mike Johnson, and or he's going to run for it, going to run again, and we're going to see what happens tomorrow. So we might have a new speaker tomorrow, or we might not, because then we're coming back on Monday for January 6th, and we've got to get those electoral votes counted. So we're going to be here on tomorrow, 10 a.m., noon Eastern time. Make sure you join us because it's another historic day. We're going to have so many historic days. You're going to be sick of historic days. You're going to be so sick of historic days. Rob, stop. Stop. We have too many historic days happening. We're going to say, no, we have to cover it. We have to. All right. So my friends, we're going to leave it there. Thank you for joining us on this earlier stream for all the breaking news. We're going to pause for a short while. We're coming back tomorrow, early tomorrow as well. And we're going to need to see you here. We have to, so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.